Welcome everybody to the Game-a-thon League of Legends finals match between Eakins Anonymous and the Sheep Lovers. My name is Michael, and you can call me Sunny.
I'm Matthew.
And today we're going to be getting right into the draft between these two teams. And as we get into it, we're just going to tell you a little bit about the history of these teams going up to this point. If you haven't been tuning in or looking at the rule sets, yesterday we played the round robin and the semifinals of our league tournament for the Game-a-thon. So Eakins Anonymous, they went 2-1 in the round robin. Sheep Lovers went 0-3. But when the semifinals matches came, both of these teams won their games and they advanced to the finals. Now, as we get into the draft, we are going to be looking at the Eakins and the Sheep Lovers and sort of seeing what they want to do for this series. It is going to be a best of 3, so let's see how the series progresses. We are going to be looking at some of the key players on each of these teams. Now, just to run you down with some of the players, we have a variety of different ranks, ranging from silver all the way to master on these teams. So we're going to see a lot of variety in the skill level and the play styles of these players, but something that we're going to be keeping a keen eye out for is the team play and how well these teams have grown to work together in the past 4 or so games that they've played. Now, just to introduce you guys as we get into the draft, on the blue side drafting, we're going to see Team Sheep Lovers. And on the red side, we're going to be seeing Eakins Anonymous. So for Sheep Lovers, their top is going to be Dragorite, jungle is going to be Bigger Gig, mid is going to be Becca, bot is going to be Sheep, and support is going to be Malthusian.
And for the Eakins, we have in the top lane C-, in the jungle, Iron Wolfie. In the mid lane is a player who wants to be called Ivan. In the bot lane is Cristiano Ronaldo, and as their support is Picky Nicky.
Now, going into the draft, we already see some key bans being pushed out from both sides. From the blue side, Team Sheep, we have the Talon and the Gwen banned out. One thing that you do need to know is that the mid lane of Team Eakins is a Masters mid player who mainly plays Assassin, so that Talon banned out is going to be key for Team Sheep. And for the Eakins themselves, they've banned the Camille of Dragorite and the bot of Sheep. And one thing you do have to know about these teams is that Team Sheep, much as their name would have you guess, bases most of their playstyle around the player in the bot lane, Sheep. And they're known to do a lot of unconventional picks like Cho'Gath and Galio AP's carries. First pick up for Team Sheep, we're going to see whether they prioritize some picks like the Scion for Sheep, and it looks like they're going to go with Nautilus for Malthusian. For Eakins, we're going to see if they want to prio some of the mids for Ivan, and it looks like they're going to go for Cristiano Ronaldo's Brand. They do play Brand as an AP carry, so we might be seeing that in the bot lane. Could be flexed to the jungle, but we'll have to see about that. Karma comes out, and it looks like that might be for Picky Nicky on the support Karma. So we might have our bot lane duo already fleshed out for the Ekins.
We're seeing the Sheep Lovers pick Anivia in the mid lane here, which I think is really interesting since it doesn't seem like they have been playing this control mage type mid lane in the past few games. And I'm really interested to see how this Anivia pick will go, especially since it's being blinded in the mid lane.
Yeah, one thing that I am curious about is to see whether they might actually flex the Anivia into the bot lane. Sheep is known for drafting some really unconventional picks, and I've played some games with Sheep. I've seen that Anivia AP carry, and it is a bit of a menace. We've got Shen as well picked out for the Sheep lovers in the top lane for Jaggerite, and it looks like we're going to be closing out this first round of picks with Nocturne for Ekin's Anonymous. Looks like Iron Wolfie is going to be playing that, and they are one of the higher ranked players in this game. So we're going to keep an eye out for how this Nocturne approaches the ganks and influences the lanes.
The Nocturne here is also interesting because of the Shen pick right before it, as Nocturne, the interaction with Shen and Nocturne is very unique in that Shen becomes pretty much useless across the map when Nocturne ults. Now, given the history of these two teams, it seems like these might have just been comfort picks for these two characters, but I will. It'll be interesting to see how the game goes on with this interaction.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like we do have some more assassins banned out by the Sheep Lovers, targeting out the mid laner of Ekin's Anonymous, Ivan, and getting some of those dangerous assassins like Yone, Kiana, and Silas out of their hands. Dr. Mundo going to be locked in for the Ekins, a stable scaling pick for C- in the top lane. And we do see some jungles banned out by the Ekins in that second round of bans. They do ban out the Rengar, they ban out the Zac, keeping away some of these potent jungle options that do have the ability to shut down characters like Nocturne.
Annie being picked here by the Sheep Lovers is a pick that they played in the semifinals actually, and they found much success with. So I will. I'm interested to see how this Annie will play out and what role it will be in because of the Anivia that has also been picked.
And it looks like we might be getting something a little spicy here. We see the Master Yi hovered, and it looks like they are going to lock it in on the side of the Sheep Lovers. Now, this is a really powerful snowballing jungler, and if we do see this Master Yi pop off, if we do see Bigger Gig being able to get some good scaling in, a lot of farm, a lot of kills, then this could be a really big threat for the Ekins. But let's see what they go for their last pick. It's going to be the LeBlanc for their mid Ivan. And like we were saying, a lot of characters banned out, but they still end up with an assassin champ that we're going to be hopefully seeing some flashy plays on. We're going to be seeing some maybe solo plays onto the mid lane of the opposing, maybe Annie, let's say for now. And as we go into the first game with this finished draft, it's going to be interesting seeing how these lanes turn out. Any lanes that you're thinking of in particular?
The mid lane matchup is fairly interesting. We actually are not sure if it's going to be Anivia or Annie in the mid lane. The Sheep Lovers have been known to swap around the players in these roles, so it could be either or in this case. They are going into the highest ranked player in this entire final series, the mid laner Ivan for the Ekans, but we will see if it's the Annie or the Anivia going into the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and I'm really kind of just excited to see how these teams match up in between the lanes. Not all of the players are going to be matching up against someone of their same rank. In the top lane, the Emerald players are going to be facing Emerald players, and the jungle Diamond players are going to be facing Diamond players, and the same goes for the bot lane. But the mid lane does have an Emerald player versus a much higher ranked Master player. And the support role also has a silver player on the side of Ekin's Anonymous versus a platinum player for the Sheep Lovers. So while some of the individual plays might be interesting to see, I think at the end of the day, it is also about that team coordination. And just looking at these drafts, it does seem like both teams have a fair amount of pick potential, with champions like the Nautilus and the Annie being great for lockdown on a single target. And the same goes for the Ekins, where they have Nocturne, they have LeBlanc, characters who are able to dive onto a single target and really shut them down. So if we see a character like Anivia or Master Yi get really fed early on in the game, they still might be under a lot of danger just because of the potential dive from the Ekins.
I think the Sheep Lovers draft is actually pretty solid, given that they have a lot of support for the potential carry of Master Yi. If the Master Yi is able to snowball early on, he has the Shen ult and the Annie shield along with Nautilus to provide crowd control. And because of the red team's high dive potential, I think a lot of this matchup will be based on how well can the Sheep Lovers defend this Master Yi carry.
Right. We do have a little bit of a delay getting into the game from the draft, but in the meantime, make sure to sit tight, get your water, get some snacks, and get ready for this first game. Now, going on with some more history between these two teams, they do have a direct head-to-head matchup in the past. While they only met once in the round robin, it was the E-Kittens who were able to take down the Sheep Lovers during this round robin stage. And remember, the Sheep Lovers went 0-3. That means not winning against any of the other teams in the round robin phase. So prior to the game, we were able to communicate with some of the players on each of the teams, and the players on the Ekins Anonymous team were quite confident going into this. We have Ivan giving us a 60-70% chance of them winning the series outright. Um, and the confidence going in from the Ekins is pretty strong because they are coming into this knowing that they placed higher in the round robin and that they won the head-to-head matchup as well. And the Sheep Lovers, having lost that head-to-head matchup but changed around their roster a little bit, we're going to see if the change in players is going to be able to make the difference and help them close out this game against the Ekins Anonymous.
This really seems like a classic underdog story with the Ekans being the tournament favorites as of right now. In the previous semifinals, they were able to beat their opponent, but in the round robin, they had lost to Team 5, which had also been Sheep Lovers in the past. So it was kind of surprising to see that Sheep Lovers was able to come back and beat the people that they had been defeated by in the round robin. Now we will just have to see if they will be able to keep this winning streak going on going into the finals.
Mm-hmm. And just to highlight some of the players on these teams, of course, we've talked at length about the mid laner of Ekin's Anonymous Ivan, who we're going to be keeping a close eye out for on the LeBlanc. We also have the spiritual leader, we'll say, of the Sheep Lovers, Sheep themselves on the bot lane, maybe Anivia. And we're going to be seeing if those two players are able to sort of lead their team and guide them to victory. And just for reference, many of these players have played at previous Game-a-thons. We have had players who it is their first time playing at the Game-a-thon. We've had players who have participated last year. We've had players who have gone to the finals even of previous Game-a-thon league tournaments. But we're really going to see whether anything has changed and whether some of the players who might have only gotten second in previous tournaments are able to place first, and whether some new players are able to pick up that mantle and win some of those great prizes that we've got. I do think that going into the early stages of the game, we're going to be wanting to keep an eye out on the solo lanes to see if any of them have particularly volatile aspects to their matchup. The top lane is going to be a pretty standard tank versus tank matchup, but we're going to be seeing if the junglers are able to make any of the difference during that. And the mid lane is going to be a more stable defensive utility mage in Annie, or Anivia perhaps, versus a very dangerous and flashy mid laner in LeBlanc. And just looking ahead at some of the potential picks in future games, just to remind everybody, this is going to be a best of three series. So no matter who wins or loses the first game, we're going to have at least one more to change up the draft order and the bans and the side selection. So what we see in this game may not even be indicative of what we see in the game right after this. Um, Again, a lot of the assassins banned out for Team Sheep. A lot of the bot lane and jungle options banned out for the Ekins. But depending on how the lanes go and how the jungle matchups favor one side or the other, we might be seeing some prio placed on getting rid of some of the more traditional support AD carry picks, mage mid laners, things like that.
I do think the sheep lovers will have an advantage in the early game with the Shen in the top lane if they can manage to win some river skirmishes in the top side in the early game versus this Nocturne and Mundo. Having the Master Yi snowball ahead will be really influential in helping the sheep lovers win this finals game.
Yeah, and Matthew, I'm one thing that I'm noticing looking at these two drafts is that both of these teams have kind of opted away from having any sort of traditional long-range picks. We have no traditional attack damage carries in the bot lane for either of these teams. No Ezreals, no Caitlyn's, none of that. Instead, we have a lot of mages, a lot of AP damage, and a lot of kind of short-range options. You're not going to be seeing a Nivea just sitting at a million miles away, firing off blasts of magic power, or an Annie just sitting back the entire time and not actually engaging in the fight. Both of these teams want their their front line to go in and go in fast and to hit hard. If you have a Nocturne going in, diving into the team with their ultimate, you need the follow up for that, or else you're just going to be sacrificing your jungler for nothing. And where we would have some artillery mages in different metas with like Syndra, Vel'Koz, Xerath, those kinds of things. We have a mid matchup that's very short range and very sporadic. So as we see some early to mid game fights break out, we're going to see which team is able to leverage this advantage in close range more for their team, and that might be a real difference maker.
I really do think that when we get to the point where there's these full out 5v5 team fights, the sheep lovers have have a comparative advantage here because if they're able to wait out the Nocturne and the LeBlanc burst by having Shen defend the Master Yi and Annie here, it will be really tough for the Eakins to actually deal any damage to the Shen or the Nautilus, given that they have this Brand Karma in the bot lane. So they have very limited consistent damage besides the Nocturne, who is looking to get onto that backline anyways. So I think we will be seeing how much this Shen and Nautilus pick influences the sheep lovers in this final game.
Right. And looks like we are experiencing some technical delays. So everybody, please just keep that in mind. We might have to have a bit of a timeout here, but no worries, everybody. Um, we're just going to keep you updated in the meantime as things work themselves out with the client and things like that. I really liked what you were saying, Matthew, because like you mentioned, uh, the sheep lovers, they have a lot of consistent peel and ability to take the focus away from their carries, which look to be Anivia and Master Yi in this game. While they have things like the Shen Taunt, the auto attack damage shield, and the Nautilus to peel away and offer a lot of stuns to things like the Anivia and the Annie. Um, the red side, the Ekins, they kind of don't have any of that. They have tools for going in and kind of nothing else for going out. Once the Nocturne's in, once the Karma and the Mundo commit, it's kind of either they win and they just beat the enemy down with their strength, or it kind of falls apart. So I really am wondering if that might be a pitfall of the E-Kittens draft here.
I think that as long as the Eakins are able to get this LeBlanc pick ahead in the early game, it may not be as much of an issue, given that Shen is not as good at defending against the damage LeBlanc can deal to their carries. But if the LeBlanc ends up even or even behind against these longer range mages in the mid lane, it will be really tough for the Eakins to come back in the mid to late game in these team fights.
Yeah, and does look like we're having some continuing issues with the delay. So on the caster side, we're still seeing the draft screen, but looks like we're hopping right into the game here. And looks like we might have missed some action. So we're jumping in at 4 minutes on the clock. Wow, a lot of action has happened already. We have the Ekans up 1 kill on that mid lane LeBlanc that we were talking about, picking up an early advantage in the mid lane. Um, and just taking a look at the junglers as well, sitting even, Mastery up 1 base, and looks like we do, like we mentioned earlier, have the Annie on the mid for Becca, and Sheep playing the bot lane AP carry Nivea. Top lane fight in the river, we have Dragarai able to take down the Dr. Mundo. We'll see if the Nocturne is able to dish out the damage in the early game. Able to take down the Shen, but gets a counter kill for the Master Yi. Uh, LeBlanc able to rotate first, but looks like we're still trading pretty evenly across the boards. 2-2 right now, and the team sitting at a pretty even amount of gold, with Team Sheep being slightly in the lead, partially due to a bot lane CS advantage.
I think what's really good here for the Ekans is that they have gotten this LeBlanc a kill in the early game versus what I consider to be a pretty easy to neutralize lane with the against the Annie. Now we see that Annie is taking a back right here, and this might lead to Ivan pulling a freeze in the mid lane, causing Annie to lose lots of farm.
Mm-hmm. And it is important to note who the kills go on to, because in this game, a kill is not the same as an assist. And you do have characters like the Shen and the Yi taking the kills on the side of Team Sheep, whereas you have the jungler of the Ekans Nocturne taking a kill, which is really not an ideal distribution of things. If things went perfectly in the top lane fight, you might have accelerated the Mundo faster towards a Heartsteel, perhaps, or maybe a Warmog's armor. But having the kills on the Master Yi is super dangerous because that is really the big attack damage threat. But we see a dragon fight popping up now. Damage dealt onto the Master Yi. We'll see if he's able to channel his way out of this, but it's not looking good. Iron Wolf able to take down Master Yi, and it looks like the LeBlanc is able to give chase as well, getting another kill onto Annie. And this is a really, really tough fight for this Team Sheep. They lose 2 members, give over the dragon, and overall, not looking great for them on the map. Which is a little bit concerning considering that they do have that short range. And if they don't have enough damage or crowd control to get through some of these health bars on the enemy side, it might not be getting much better for them.
This is really tough for the Sheep because what they're looking to do here is pretty much go even in the early game, but the Ekans have been able to gain quite a significant lead in both the mid lane and the jungle here. So unless the mid laners are able to go even for the rest of this early to mid game, I think that the Sheep lovers are going to have a really tough time dealing with this LeBlanc when you get to those later team fights, especially when it comes to keeping the Sheep lovers from getting picked out.
Yeah, and we do see the red side taking the grubs right now. The Ekins able to collapse onto that. No movement from the other side, so it looks like the grubs are going to go 3 the way of the Ekins, taken for pretty much free. And this is really a concerning pattern that we're starting to see, where the jungle and the mid are pulling ahead really quickly. I said earlier that maybe kills on the Nocturne aren't the greatest, but having that early game power is a big deal. And if the Nocturne is able to keep up the farm advantage on the Yi, sitting at about 10 to 15 farm advantage right now. That could be big. We see a gank in the bottom lane. Cristiano Ronaldo getting kicked out, and the dive pulled off successfully. Surprising a little bit from an early game Master Yi, but these junglers racking up kills on both sides.
Now, this sets up the Sheep lovers in a better spot than they were before, having these kills on the Yi, who is their main attack damage carry here. Oh, and it seems like we have a pause happening.
Yeah, no worries about the pause. We'll have the issues resolved shortly, but uh, it is an interesting state of the game that we have here during this pause. We see bot wave pushing up after the successful gank for Team Sheep, Sheep himself. having an assist on the Nivea, up a fairly significant amount of CS, about 2 waves. And this brand AP carry is really strong no matter what, able to deal a lot of damage no matter what. But falling behind against a wild card like the Nivea bot lane is really not ideal. And we might be seeing some reprioritization and some movement from the Nocturne towards the bot side after they get their level 6, which has just been hit. Again, some more trading in the solo lanes between the two teams. Neutral objectives have both been taken, being the Grubs and the Cloud Dragon, by the Eakins, Sheep Lovers, looking to get themselves on the board with some of those.
Now, what I'm really interested to see is how this first paranoia will be used by the Nocturne here. In mid lane, Annie is at half HP, and it is possible that they're going to look for a dive here to get the LeBlanc in a better position, or he may opt to go bot lane and try to even out this goal differential there.
Yeah, and looks like we have some issues with our observer client. We're going to have a short timeout here where we're trying to fix some technical issues. Thanks for your patience. Please bear with us, and we'll be back to you shortly with the live broadcast. But again, just kind of taking a look at the state of the game, uh, the scaling on both teams is going to be, in the end, I would say maybe fairly even, with both teams having just a huge amount of damage to be able to shut down the enemy team's big threats. Now, as we have a short pause here for resolving some of those technical issues, I just wanted to highlight some of what the players have been saying before these games, because there is a lot of confidence coming out from some of the teams, and also maybe a little bit of smack talk. I think that uh, the sheep lovers have focused on containing the mid and the jungle in their preparation for this game, but it looks like that might not be going their way, because the mid and jungle of the Ekins are exactly who you want to be worried about. We see Paranoid coming on the top lane, going on to the tank Shen, but that might not be the ideal target. Shen able to dodge away from a lot of the auto attack damage of the Nocturne and the Mundo. Staying under tower right now, we'll see if the red side is able to pull off the dive. Dragonite flashing away, taunting up the Nocturne, and although both of them are at blinking health bars, the dive is successful, and Mundo and Nocturne take down that tank Shen.
And we do see the sheep lovers counter jungling a bit in the bot side there, but because of the already large CS gap, I don't think that it has equalized much of the mid lane of the jungle matchup.
In the mid lane, we do see a solo kill coming out from LeBlanc onto the Annie. Mastery ulting, giving chase, and able to collect that shutdown. So overall, you do have to remember that Annie in this game is more of a facilitator, more of a utility player, providing crowd control and peel for their team. Whereas Master Yi, if those kills keep stacking up onto that character, is going to be really dangerous. We see a 1v1 fight in the mid lane between the junglers, and the Shen'el going to make the difference. And that is really important to notice, because the Nocturne already has a fully completed Stride Breaker, one on the half item Master Yi, a really big difference in power there. But the ultimate from the Shen, a global range shield and teleport, able to bail their jungler out and uh, equalize the situation. Now, resetting to neutral, we do see top lane going extremely even in CS. 69 to 66 creeps in the top lane. The bottom lane, the lead has stabilized a little bit for between the Nivea and the brand. The gold differential not too high between them, both them sitting on some pretty solid items, but we're going to be seeing Sheep return to the bottom lane with that fully completed Mercury's treads. Really a solid buy, I would say, against the brand bot lane, Karma support, LeBlanc mid, and even CC like the Fear from the Nocturne, who is counter jungling at the moment in that bot side area.
This is a really big issue for the sheep lovers because, as we can see, Master Yi taking it back right now. He's gonna go to that red side jungle and see that all of his camps are tough for him to find something to do right now, given this game state. Especially since the mid lane is not looking great for them either.
Yeah, a little fight in the top lane, skirmish between two tanks. Nothing too crazy here. But as this dragon does spawn up, it's spawning in a couple seconds. We are going to see the Mundo base. But it looks like the Nocturne is going to prioritize getting those 6 grubs, getting the additional Void Might spawns on the tower attacks, while the Team Sheep is going to get that bottom dragon, the Hextech, and they're going to equalize themselves in terms of drakes and stop that dragon stacking from the Ekins.
I think what sheep lovers are gonna try to look to do here is send that Master Yi bot lane and try to get ahead. Because of the difference in the top and mid lane right now, it's gonna be tough for the jungler to do anything there. So we see him trying to kill this brand here, but he is able to ghost out.
Yeah, the Ghost Flash brand coming into fruition here, able to just walk, hop, step, and away from that scary, scary Master Yi. But that does mean that the bottom lane is boxed out of their bot tower, usually where a bot tower would provide that safety and the ability to clear out waves without worrying about attacks. If you just cut them off before they get to that bot tower, you're not getting any farm at all. And it's just Karma picking up the creeps, the XP, the gold by themselves, which is really not an ideal situation for the Ekin. So that bot side bleeding might be an area of concern to look at going forward.
I really like that play because it shows that the sheep lovers recognize that mid and top are not going to be where they get their lead. So focusing the resources on this ball lane, I think, is going to be their path to winning this game.
Mm-hmm. And Heartsteel check, 24 stacks on Mundo, 24 stacks on Shen. Both of these guys probably just going to be slapping each other every 15, 30 seconds, collecting those stacks and scaling up nicely. We do see Nocturne still with the shutdown, and he taking a rough trade in the mid lane. And if we do have the Paranoia available and ready for Nocturne. So if we see that popped, we might see the Annie pop right after. But for now, just head up to clear the top side camps, Master Yi heading to the bot side, and we'll hopefully see a little bit more action coming around the bot lane, as Master Yi does seem to be going for the bush gank through the lane. Cannon secured by Dragorai, always a shout out. Missing those does have a stacking effect on the rest of the game. And of course, in a best of 3 series, you do need to keep your team's morale as high as possible. So don't miss any cannons, guys. Bottom lane gank with Master Yi, a little bit too pushed up for that. So Ekin's able to just clear out the wave under the tower and retreat to safety. A lot of damage coming out onto the Mundo in the top lane, but again, always has the ultimate button that gives him more and more regen based on how low you are. So a low HP Mundo, not even in the greatest of risk, but the bot lane, we do see Master Yi diving forward onto the Karma, maybe looking to give the shutdown away to the support. And it looks like the brand does get it, which is really not an ideal situation for the sheep lovers, because getting that brand to the Leandri's Torment, the big crucial core item that is really kind of all the brand needs to be a huge damage threat in this game, is really rough. And looks like bigger Gig wanted to get that shutdown from the Karma, but the tick of the brand gives them the last bit of damage to be able to collect that shutdown, get the big money.
I think that play overall was good for the sheep lovers because now the Master Yi has of go around and try to equalize some of these matchups here. And we do see LeBlanc matching the Anivia in the bot lane. I think it might be tough for the LeBlanc to take out this Anivia, especially given that the Anivia has this Mercury Treads and Rod of Ages build.
Yeah, top lane, we do see the Mundo popping the Ghost, popping the Ultimate, just scurrying away from the gank by the Mastery and by the Shen. And although the Shen does have that nice little taunt to be able to control Dr. Mundo, we do just have that little bit of limited crowd control from the top side of Team Sheep. Nautilus getting focused down by the LeBlanc here at 1.5 items. This LeBlanc is pretty strong and pretty scary. Paranoia popped, Nocturne in the bot lane, getting vision onto the Anivia, and the Anivia does have egg, but the Shenel does come in. Nautilus dead. Anivia falling lower and lower, able to pop the egg and get the resurrection. But the Shenel is enough to secure that the Anivia survives to tell another tale. But overall, just a really great play from the Ekins, collapsing down with 4 members, leaving Mundo in the top side. But as I say that, maybe a bit of a caster curse, Mundo gets taken down by the Blade of the Ruin King, Master Yi. And good first purchase from Master Yi, Blade of the Ruin King, dealing percentage health damage, which is crucial against HP stackers like Dr. Mundo, who does have that heartsteel and is getting more and more health by the second. But yeah, really great job by the E-Kittens to neutralize some of the advantages that have been picked up in this early game by Team Sheep. And LeBlanc may be able to destroy the tower. Yeah, just one turret, just one shot from the staff of LeBlanc, able to proc the 6 grubs that they have and take down that middle tower.
We do see that the Ekans have a tower advantage here with both the top and the mid tier ones down. This gives them quite a significant gold lead. However, the sheep lovers, their comp, as long as the Master Yi has the resources, they don't need as much gold compared to how the Nocturne and the Blanc need it.
Yeah, and as we see this dragon fight breaking out and sort of coming to a conclusion, we do have the dragon secured by the Nocturne, but has to trade their life in the process. Master Yi running towards the Dr. Mundo, getting a quick Q onto them, but that Dr. Mundo has an ult, and that Dr. Mundo is not dying anytime soon. So a good play overall, I would say, by the Ekins, just able to take that dragon, losing the Nocturne, and that is a bit rough. But again, games are probably going to be going a little bit late. Neither of these teams amount of side lane pushing power. So we are going to be looking at those dragons as an endgame objective as we near the 3rd and maybe even 4th dragon for Team Ekins. And Sheep caught out in the bot lane, looking a little bit lost here as the LeBlanc solo kills the Anivia, Paranoia, it popped at the same time, able to get the kill onto the mid lane Annie, and overall just losses all around the map for Team Sheep. Dragorai able to trade evenly against the Mundo, but even is not really enough because the rest of the team is falling and falling. Master Yi, though, the damage, the difference maker, Mundo with no ultimate popped in the earlier mid-game fight, does find that kill going over to the way of Dragorai. Now, kill onto Master Yi might be good, but at this point, the Master Yi is already so accelerated, it might be good to beef up the other players on the team. And it looks like Shen is going to be one of those players that we're going to have to rely on to be the front line, to be the engage, to be the peel for all of Team Sheep. Becca teleporting out to the bot lane to catch the wave, not wanting that tower to go down, and Ivan smartly taking the base to not have to contest that freshly respawned Annie. And we do see, as Ivan walks out of the base, that they're already on 2 full items. You see at the bottom of your screen the Luden's Companion and the Void Staff. So any magic resistance stacking that Dragorai might be thinking about doing is severely mitigated by that Void Staff with that penetration of magic resistance. And even the Mercury's we see the negative cloak picked up for the Nautilus right now, just really indexing on that magic res that's going to be really valuable against the LeBlanc brand threat of Ekins. A smart purchase out from Ivan, and we're going to see this continued side lane pressure applied from the LeBlanc.
We also see Iron Wolfie pick up the Serpent's Fang, which is really crucial here, reducing both the Shen and the Annie's shields on Master Yi. Master Yi is looking to build the Wit's End to counteract the LeBlanc, but since she has the Void Staff, it might not be enough.
And Master Yi finding that ult and the kill onto Nocturne, TP coming out by looks like Dr. Mundo into the bot lane, but the fight might already be over. I'm not sure if that was the best call going away from a pushing in top wave. LeBlanc trying to find the counter kill in response, but it might be in a bit of a sticky position behind the enemy lines. Karma picked off. Mundo exhausted, ulting, but just getting beaten down. And it looks like LeBlanc not really able to connect to the fight. Still just waiting in that bottom tri-brush. A really, really rough series of events coming as they're not able to fight with their most powerful damage dealers in the Brand and in the LeBlanc. Looks like Shen going to be matching up against the LeBlanc, a pretty solid tank versus assassin matchup, usually favoring the tank. But the Sheep Team Sheep, although they're at a goal deficit, they are pulling pretty ahead with some of these plays and some of these kills. But again, make sure not to count your horse, not to count your horses before they're hatched. Chickens, I think, was as we've already seen these teams want index on capturing this baron. With the spawn of the dragon pit of a do-si-do around the baron pit and the dragon pit, where one team but until then, both teams just kind of pushing in the waves and trying to secure prio for these objectives. Remember, having the lanes pushed in, always a good thing because it means that the enemy has to have extra time to push out the waves. They have less access to vision around the objectives, and we'd see that the Eakins are doing a good job clearing out some of that vision, but Team Sheep down the Dragon Pit in this bottom area.
It looks like they're about to set for this. Dragons are able to get this. They will be on Soul Point, which puts them one step closer to getting that Camtex. My God.
Going on to just triple kill. Uh, this brick away with both the ultimate and W. Bigger Gig popping the ultimate and getting a huge amount of move speed. With the ultimate, W just comes off cooldown, and we see the flash Q able to take down that big LeBlanc. Dragorite tank, but and down for Nocturne, not able to help re-engage. Mundo popping Ghost, just sprinting away. Might just be the win on for the Eakins. So taking the LeBlanc down for just the tank Shen, not too bad of a trade, honestly. And Summoner invested on both the Mundo and the Nocturne to take down that one Shen.
It's looking really tough for the Eakins right now. Their win condition of the LeBlanc is not going to be able to chew through this Master Yi, especially with both the Wits and this Death Dance that he's building. So as we go on to more team fights and more objectives, it's going to get harder and harder for the Eakins to take down this Master Yi, especially since the Shen and the Nautilus can peel so well off of him. The utility provided by the Annie and the Anivia also stops anyone else on their team from getting to this Master Yi, who's just able to run rampant in the backline of the Eakins here.
Yeah, crucially, we might be coming up on some big item power spikes. You want to keep an eye on that LeBlanc having those two needlessly large rods. Once the LeBlanc is able to get enough gold to complete the Rabadon's death cap, that damage is going to be a bit insane. And some of the squishier targets, maybe the Annie, maybe the Master Yi, might be burst down. We see Anivia going into the stopwatch, but I don't know if that's just going to prolong the inevitable. As the stopwatch used, stopwatch broken, the Nocturne and the LeBlanc, the two really fed members of the enemy team, are going to take down Sheep themselves. And a good play coming out here, taking down an enemy hero right before the dragon spawns. And we're going to see if Sheep is able to get back in time for the dragon, but nevertheless, a good play breaking that stopwatch of Sheep means that even in the next fight, no, just having the teleport and no flash, no stopwatch is going to be rough for Sheep without the passive as well. But again, Master Yi stands complete for lost on Mundo, maybe a little bit preemptive. We see the dive going in forward. Becca gets a great Tibbers onto the back line, and Yi just shredding all of these really squishy targets. Even tankier folks like the Nocturne seem squishy to the Master Yi, and the flash taunt from Draggerite, flashy, maybe unnecessary, but it gets the job done as Ivan still alive on a sliver of HP, maybe trying to think if he can take down team, but it's going to be a no, as Bigger Gig able to take down the Chemtech Drake, get themselves onto Soul Point, with the next Chemtech Drake being the last one they need to get that Chemtech Soul, which is really going to help out their tankiness, really going to help out their shielding, and just snowball their lead even further. We see the gold difference is not too great between these teams. Again, it's about who that gold is on. Rabadon's Death Cap finished for LeBlanc, so we're going to see them dishing out some damage, but Master Yi has been dishing out the damage already. And it doesn't look like that's going to stop anytime soon, as the Mundo just gets to 3 items. Brand still sitting on 2, and just the breakpoints looking like they might be a bit far away. Anivia, though, engaged upon by the Paranoia from the Nocturne, and that's looking like a very dead Sheep right there. As the Paranoia, it feels like Sheep might be being targeted a little bit by the Nocturne and the LeBlanc combination, but even in that case, Nivea is not the squishiest hero. With the Merc Treads and the Rod of Ages, Sheep might be itemizing towards a little bit more of a tanky utility build rather than fully indexing on something like damage or magic penetration. Baron respawns, and we see Malthusian looking to maybe secure a little bit more vision around the Baron pit as a support. LeBlanc just pushing by themselves in the bot lane for now uncontested. Mundo shoving in the top waves, but it looks like we might have a little bit of a cheeky play in the top side jungle. Iron Wolfie just cut down in an instant by that Master Yi, and that might just be a free Baron. I don't really know what the game plan was for the red side, losing all of that vision around the Baron pit so early on. And it really is going to be a little bit of a disaster for them, as we see concurrently Sheep facing up against the LeBlanc in the bottom lane. And although the LeBlanc is really fed, Sheep is not doing that little damage either. One more icicle straight into the back of LeBlanc, and LeBlanc is down. But here comes the backup. Let's see if Becca is able to zone them away, and zone them away she does. Sheep with a really great play from the back foot, still able to take down that fed LeBlanc, and that really kind of shows you how this game might be going. The LeBlanc burst potential no longer really there, tankiness acquired by the blue side, and Team Sheep with the Baron buff looking to crush some more objectives. The top tower taken down We'll see if maybe mid tier 2 or bottom tier 1 are focused on, and looking good if you're a fan of Team Sheep right here. LeBlanc picking up the Verdant Barrier, a really good choice versus some of the stun potential of the Annie, of the Nautilus, of the Anivia, and even of the Shen with the taunt. But with the amount of crowd control that is possible in a team fight from the Team Sheep, I don't know if that's going to be enough. And we need to see the Mundo able to tank up and absorb some of that damage.
We also see the Master Yi has just picked up a Guardian's Angel, so now in every fight they gotta take him down twice. And it hasn't been looking good for taking him down that first time, so I think in future team fights it's not gonna be easy for the Ikens to be able to even touch this Master Yi at this point.
And we see the Team Sheep looking at this mid tier 2, bottom tier 1 taken down by Dragarite. Again, that tank able to be matched up against the Assassin LeBlanc is really favorable for Team Sheep. An Assassin is looking to kill. That's kind of the name of their job. But a tank, also not easy to kill. That's their job. So in that sort of situation, the tank is going to be winning out and getting some easy free push. Mid lane, it looks like both teams are sort of posturing for a fight, but again, neither team really has the resources to commit, with the Master Yi in the bot lane for Team Sheep, Ivan on the LeBlanc kept in the bot lane to try and hold off on that, and the mid lane damage threat is not huge. But that just sort of means with the Baron, inevitably the advantage is going to go to the side of Team Sheep, and bot tier 2 already taken down. Mid tier 2 is not looking good enough for this world for much longer. And as this last potential Chemtech Drake spawns, we're gonna see a lot of bot side priority being placed by Team Sheep, hiding out in this bush. The red side really kind of unawares of what's going on. And if anybody, especially this support Karma, walks into that bush unawares, they might be getting exploded like a balloon. But wrapping around from behind, everybody stay quiet, because this might be a really big surprise for the red side. Not Paranoia popped by the Nocturne just to disengage. Master Yi ultimate still running, and running a 2 is the Mundo. Master Yi goes in by themselves. Nocturne, Stridebreaker, trying to peel away. Flash from Nocturne, flash earlier from Brand, and looks like it's going to be a bit of a neutral play from both sides. But you do have to remember, although the kills aren't there, the summoner spells sure are. And the dragon spawning just means that Team Sheep kind of has a free objective for themselves to take. Objective bounties popping up for the Ekins, as they are severely behind in gold now, a 4,000 plus gold deficit. And Chemtech Soul secured by a bigger gig. It's really, really looking like a dire situation for Ekins. We'll see if they're able to get Sheep in the top lane. Zhonya's Hourglass onto the root of the LeBlanc flash out, and looks like that play falls before it even gets really going. Master Yi running onto the Mundo, but with the support of that Karma, just able to walk themselves away. But again, Chemtech Soul means that these really well protected, peeled for, and hard hitting carries of Team Sheep are just going to be that much harder to burst down the initial engage on.
Oh,
A huge play onto Ivan, just shutting down that LeBlanc where she stands. And I don't really know if that was the best go. And if he still has that egg, Zonia's popped earlier, but as we're talking, Nocturne ulting onto the Master Yi. Master Yi takes down the Brand first, though, and that Master Yi is just so fast with the ultimate. The fear just sends him sprinting back towards his base, right where he wants. And this mid tier 2 is getting eyed up like a piece of candy by Team Sheep, already expanding their goal lead to 5K, north of 5K, and looking to get that to 6K with this mid tower. Master Yi wrapping around in a bush, staying real quiet. And this Dr. Mundo throwing a lot of briefcases, but I don't know if the deep push down into the trade. Flashing the Lulu emote. We're seeing these players get a little bit ahead of themselves. This game's not over yet, but it sure does look difficult.
it's looking pretty dire for the Ikens right now. Their game plan of getting Ivan ahead was really shut down after the Master Yi was able to take over all of these team fights in the mid game. Now, now that everyone else on the Street Lovers has gotten some defensive stats, Ivan just can't do anything with the lead that he once had, which has been completely neutralized at this point. Oh,
And it looks like we are in a bit of delay on the caster side. So On our end, the game has ended, and we'll be getting back to you if we're able to see those last couple of minutes of the game. Again, we are streaming a little bit behind the real-time thing, so uh, we'll see if we're able to hop back into the game and sort of look at how these last couple of minutes are playing out. As we hop back into the observer client, we're able to see a little bit more going on. The mid lane getting pushed by the low block all the way to the tier 3, not a bad sign. Able to pick up an objective bounty maybe, and that is going to be a lot of gold put into the Ekin's pockets.
This does seem like a little bit of a desperation play, though, given that in the past few team fights, the Ekans have not been doing very well. She-Lovers might be looking for some sort of backdoor play with the LeBlanc and her mobility, but I think that once this Baron goes down, they're going to all recall, and it's not going to be successful for the Ekans on this backdoor attempt.
Yeah, and going down, it looks like it is, but Master Yi jumps over the wall, TP coming in on a ward behind, flashing over to just secure this kill on the Mundo, but this Mundo is pretty tanky. Looks like a change of targets to the Brand instead, and with that 4v5 situation, with the Mundo being down in ultimate and down a lot of tankiness, this looks like it is going to be a Baron secured for Team Sheep. Paranoia comes in though.
Oh,
Nice try by Iron Wolfie, but outsmited by Bigger Gig. And Bigger Gig kind of just making it happen all around the map.
this looks like the end of the game at this point with the Baron and the gold advantage here. All they got to do is push down mid, and as long as someone's watching for that LeBlanc backdoor, I think it's pretty solid for the Sheep Lovers in this game one.
Yeah, and you are seeing that although maybe some of the individual players might be outranked by some of their lane opponents, the blue side of Team Sheep is just kind of playing really cohesively as a team. They're grouped up for the objectives, they're securing vision together, they're making plays that make a lot of sense. And on the red side, Ekins is kind of feeling like their ideas are a little bit all over the place. Where Ivan is maybe split pushing and trying to generate that lead. Getting caught out, someone's missing a trade kill, and it looks like Ekins is just maybe, although they were able to more games as a full unit in the round robin in the semifinals, maybe getting out team played. And this is going to be a big thing that we're going to be looking at going forward.
I think especially the mid lane, Becca did an incredible job of neutralizing the lead that Ivan had at the beginning, and the Annie pick here was really smart given the utility of Tibbers on the and that stun that was casted in those team fights.
Yeah, a little bit of a caster curse again as Tibbers goes out into the spell shield, but Dragorite gets a really nice taunt onto the LeBlanc. That's the key target. LeBlanc goes down, and that might just be the first domino in the crumble of the Ekins. Shen takes down the Karma, Brand gets taken down by Sheep, and Nocturne and Mundo are trying to hightail it away, but you can't hightail away from this Master Yi. Just slicing, 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 cutting through the enemy team like a knife would through butter. And that's a double kill for Mastery, and that might be a double kill on those towers too, as we finish up this game and the Team Sheep pulling through from what looked like a little bit of a rough game state with the Fed LeBlanc into a full team wipe at the very end. 5 members alive and 5 members dead on the opposing team.
Yeah, that LeBlanc had to, even with those 6 kills, had a really hard time spreading that lead to other lanes. The bot lane was really good at neutralizing and not dying to any ganks here, especially with the Master Yi counter ganking incredibly well against the LeBlanc and the Nocturne here. We just saw a Master Yi get ahead and snowball into that mid game, late game team fights with limited CC from the Ekans to shut him down.
Yeah, and Matthew, it makes you kind of wonder if the teams kind of just had different ways of playing towards the win conditions, and Team Sheep might have just executed better. Going into the game, we thought that Sheep might be the player that we want to look out for on Team Sheep, playing this crazy Anivia bot pick, having these unconventional drafts and target bans towards them. But we might have glossed over the real hero of this game on the Master Yi Bigger Gig. We know that they've been playing for at least 10 years of League at this point and have been a previous Game-a-thon participant, but they're powered by their want for the prizing. And we do see prior to the game that they told us they would do anything to get that modular power supply which is going to be our prizes for this League of Legends tournament. And on that note, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for the League of Legends tournament, Seasonic. The first place team of this tournament is going to get 5 overall Vertex GX 850s, one for each member of the team. And the second place team is going to get 5 MagFlow 1225 PWM 3-fan kits. Again, one for each member of the team. And these are no joke. Seasonic, thank you for sponsoring the tournament. And it looks like having some of these awesome prizes on the line really are driving the players to perform and excel. As we saw Bigger Gig do in that game, the Master Yi just warping the entire game around them, really. The Master Yi's team playing to enable the Master Yi and supportive picks like the Anivia, like the Nautilus, like the Shen, and especially like the Annie, who we had a bit of a question mark going into the game with, as they were solo killed by the LeBlanc. But at the end of the day, the Annie's not the win condition. The Annie's not the win condition. It's the Master Yi. And although the win con on the red side seemed to be the LeBlanc, they just weren't able to connect with the LeBlanc in the fights that really mattered. In the objectives, it seemed like the LeBlanc was not able to fight with them as their strongest member and as the one who could deal a huge amount of burst damage and gain a quick advantage in the fight. And the game plan kind of fell apart once the one shot stopped coming through and once players like Sheep were able to neutralize that assassin LeBlanc.
I think as long as Sheep Lovers continue this strategy of picking more supportive mid laners and a carry jungler here, it's going to be really tough for the Eakins to really neutralize that mid lane in a meaningful way, because and it could be 0 and 10 and that 5-man stun's still going to hit all 5 members of Eakins, right? I like the strategy here that the mid laner of the Eakins is going to be what they're trying to support. But if you have this CC heavy mid laner opponent, it won't matter how ahead the mid laner of Eakins is.
Yeah, and I just want to call attention to the draft that we might be going to soon for game number 2. We're going to see if Eakins wants to switch up their priority of banning away the AP carries like Galio or Cho'Gath from Sheep, and maybe placing a little bit more of the priority in the bans onto onto Bigger Gig, who showed us a really great performance, the Master Yi, in that first game. We saw the Rengar bend away from Bigger Gig. It looks like the Zac as well. We'll see if they pivot to uh, we'll see if they pivot to a more tank-oriented playstyle for the jungle, supporting maybe an AP carry in the bot lane, or whether we're able to continue forward with this carry jungle supportive team comp style that we've been seeing from the Sheep Lovers in this first game. And that's going to be a really interesting thing that we see happen before the game even starts, whether they're going to switch up the style. In between games, we are just going to be looking towards this next couple drafts. And as the teams get ready to enter that, we are going to go to a quick ad from our sponsor, seasonic. All right. And as we get ready for this game number two, again, we want to highlight some of the matchups between the two teams. Now, we saw, again, what looked like to be a lane disparity in the mid lane between the master player, Ivan, who played the LeBlanc, versus Becca, who played the more supportive Annie. But again, Team Sheep able to really make the most of what they have in a strong team-oriented composition, able to play the team fights out well, able to hit the front line and hit them hard with the mastery, chunking down the Mundo, especially in the early to mid game when the Mundo hadn't been able to build up that much health and resistance. And I really am curious to see whether we're going to see this mastery banned out because although it was picked late in the draft, it does look like enough of a threat where even with some disengage from the enemy team, even with some utility through the Nocturne ult and through the Fear, that maybe this mastery is just enough of a problem that we see an early ban focused onto it from the E-Kittens. And in terms of bans, we've yet to see some of the strong picks from a lot of the solo laners. We saw the Gwen banned away from C minus. We saw the Camille banned away from Dragarite. And if those get through, if some early pry was placed onto the jungle of Sheep and maybe the mid lane of Ekin's Anonymous, we might see a really different style of draft coming in for game number two. Again, just sort of looking out for some of those key picks. Uh, we do know that Cristiano Ronaldo, the player, not the soccer sensation, is a big Draven player. Uh, we did see them on the brand, but it did feel like that brand was a little bit muted during the game. What should have been a really big damage threat and AP carry didn't really feel that much of a way in that first game. So Cristiano Ronaldo, a high rated diamond player, able to play a variety of different AD carries. We're going to see if they're going to bust out some of the characters that allow them to orient the game more towards them. Or Master Yi or LeBlanc might have been the focus of that first game. If we see the E-Kittens AD carry pick up a Draven or maybe even a Kaisa, we might see a lot more priority placed onto them with the jungle pathing or with maybe some mid ganks from the assassins of Ivan. And if that is the case, then we could see, again, another very different and new dynamic emerge. But from the bot lane of Team Sheep, again, we also thought that would be really the focus of where the action might be happening with Sheep's unconventional and unconventional picks and ability to catch the enemy team off guard. We did see the Cho'Gath banned away and other picks that Sheep really drifts towards. But again, those are let through, then the bot lane could turn into a really, really, really different matchup between the bot lanes with Cristiano Ronaldo playing a bot laner with much more agency in the game and much more ability to impact in early levels. And we could see Sheep also throwing them another curveball, picking up a Scion, sitting in the bush, building a lot of attack damage, and just one-shotting whatever this Draven or Kaisa might be. Again, we saw a really heavy AP focus from both teams, mid and bot sides in the first game. But if that switches around and we get some more 80 assassins like Talon for Ivan, or we see something like maybe even a pocket Caitlyn mid for Becca, we could find ourselves in a very different style of game where the mid bot is a very AD focused dynamic. And in terms of the jungle picks, I was excited to see that Nocturne come out. Nocturne, extremely buffed, I would say, in organized play, with that paranoia being able to be coordinated much, much more easily, but also allowing for more counterplay with effective communication from the opposing side.
I think what that last game really showed us is that Ekans is not going to be able to rely on just Ivan being ahead. They got to make sure that they have equal power in all the roles, especially in the jungle, so that the Ivan can have that support. We've seen that Sheep Lovers is able to attack the weaker roles such as bot or top with the jungle in order to gain a lead in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just speaking of the top, again, we saw a tank versus tank matchup. I know you guys watching are probably not the most excited to see those sorts of matchups occur, and believe us, we aren't either. But if we see what could be potentially a carry versus carry matchup with something like the Camille facing up against something like an Aurelia or a Gwen, that could also lead to a lot more jungle prio towards that. So really, it is kind of an open bag, even though we had that entire first game what the second game is going to look like. And although the teams have been duking it out, we really still haven't seen a lot of what their potential lies with. So we want to see some more unconventional picks. We want to see some more bursty, flashy gameplay from these players, and just hopefully we're going to be able to get that going into the next game. Again, we are having a little bit of technical issues with spectating and the Riot League clients, and we are just going to be on a bit of a pause for that. So bear with us. Get your snackies ready and available as you did with Game One for Game Two. And I did just want to mention that the Eakins Anonymous was kind of the favorite going into this first match, beating Team Sheep in the round robin. Um, the team saying that they're confident going in because they've already faced sheep lovers before and that sheep lovers weren't all that, but maybe sheep lovers are all that. The love of sheep carries into a love of the game and a love of each other because their team play was immaculate. I think that some early individual slip ups did happen, and that was part of what allowed Eakins Anonymous to get that early lead through solo kills, through early ganks, and things like that. But as the game developed, it kind of looked like they were just out team fighting the Eakins as the sheep lovers because they just stayed together as a ball and they barreled down the enemy team. And sometimes that's how you got to do it. We saw what looked to be some devious side laning coming out from Ivan on LeBlanc, but it might just be the case that the team fight and the coordination of sheep lovers outmatched that. There are a lot more interesting picks to be had in this next game. I personally have had the experience of playing with a sheep Galio in the AP carry role, and that was something I was really glad that they were on my team for. Just hiding in bushes, bursting down opponents is kind of the name of the game for sheep. And with Anivia, I think that was kind of a maybe selfless thing to do to go away from this unconventional style that sheep is known for and really crowd control, the team fight, and the zoning potential that the Nivea brings, and as well as the anti-dive from that Nivea passive.
I think what the Eakins might have to do here is play more towards a side lane and pick heavy comp because if they want to rely on Ivan and his assassins, they might have to play around that more than going into team fights where assassins might have more trouble going through that front line and getting to that carry in the back line.
Mm-hmm. And although the Mundo and the Nocturne weren't necessarily the cause of the downfall for Eakins Anonymous in game number one, I would be interested to see if they could potentially have a little bit more side lane threat. Looks like we are jumping into the draft for game number two, and we'll see if any of the things that we've been talking about are able to come into fruition here. We're looking at some early bans, maybe on the key picks from the past game, like Master Yi, like the Assassins in the mid lane for Ivan, and maybe some Cho'Gath, Scion, Galio bans against Sheep in the bot lane. But then again, all of this could be switched around because the players are very versatile in what they're able to do. So the bot lane matchup could be completely different with conventional AD carries. Top lane matchup could be a carry matchup again instead of having the tanks versus the tanks. And the mid lane matchup could be a mid laners with more agency for Becca rather than just sort of playing supportive style towards the jungle. But again, we see a similar sort of pattern for bans coming out with banning away the Talon, taking away the AD Assassin threat there for Ivan. You can sticking with their early ban of Camille and taking that away from Dragorite, known Camille player, in the Getro Gaming esports community. And as sheep lovers continue with their bans, we're going to see if they want to change anything up or just keep the same sort of flowchart from the previous game. Taking their time with the second ban, we'll see if they keep the prio on the mid lane of Ivan, or whether they want to branch out and maybe take away some jungle options or top options, like we see with the Gwen. Instant ban out on the Cho'Gath from the E-Kittens, really not wanting to face that AP threat from Sheep in the bot lane. And last couple bans coming through for each side before we get into picks. Last ban for Sheep Lovers. I'm expecting maybe another Assassin ban. We'll see if it ends up being the LeBlanc or whether it's something else like the Kiana that we saw banned out earlier in the past pick ban. But it is going to be the Silas versus the Galio ban. So getting to the first picks for Sheep Lover, we're going to see if they prio the Master Yi or whether they want some more neutral defensive picks, like maybe an early rotation of Annie to stabilize the mid lane a little bit. I think a big thing here might be saving counter picks for top lane or maybe even the mid lane for both of these teams. And we do see the Nautilus first pick for Sheep Lovers. And this CC was really great. We saw some really powerful hook ults coming out from Malthusian in the first game, especially that bottom river dragon fight where Malthusian got the 3-person ultimate after hooking in and sort of just breaking open the game and allowing for a triple kill from Master Yi. And we see, like we mentioned before, a rotation away from the brand with an early Kaisa Seraphine pick. Now, this is a bot lane that's going to have an insane amount of scaling and is going to be really, really dangerous if you let the game go past maybe 30 minutes and you get Kaisa with 4 items, Seraphine healing and shielding up enough to sustain through the team fights. And it looks like we are going to be seeing maybe a more team fight oriented composition from Ekin's Anonymous rather than kind of just playing the sides with the LeBlanc. But again, we're going to have to see what that mid pick looks like and whether these 2 picks from Sheep Lovers are going to change anything up. Looks like it is going to be the Anivia picked again, likely for Sheep. Just not wanting to change anything that has been working in the past for Sheep Lovers, and I can't fault them for doing that. No matter how rough it looked in the early to mid game, Sheep Lovers still stuck together and played as a team and were able to scale their way up to victory. And we're going to see if their third pick helps them do that.
What I'm really interested to see is if Ivan will decide to branch out from these assassin picks and go into more of a team fight oriented pick. Given that Sheep Lovers has picked Malzahar and Nautilus, it's going to be tough to play any assassin in the mid lane. So it might be time for Ivan to pull out something that we haven't seen before in this tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this Malzahar pick really interesting. Not something you see all too often, but again, a powerful neutralizer. The ultimate of Malzahar, able to lock down a single key target. So even if it's something slippery, like a Kiana or like a LeBlanc, they're going to be able to be locked down. And we see the Jarvan being picked up for Ekin's Anonymous. Again, another jungler with a lot of engage, a lot of playmaking potential, and ability to set up some of these champions and allow for Kaisa to dive in on them with that killer instinct. And locking the enemies and the Cataclysm as well, a great way to land a good Seraphine ult. We see Rengar banned away by Ekin's Anonymous, now looking to have that kitten in this game. And it looks like we're going to see the Orianna actually banned away by the Sheep Lovers. Again, taking away some of that teamfight capability, maybe taking a bit of a read on that. Ivan is not going to be looking at the Assassin mid lanes for much longer. But the Mastery does mean that if Sheep Lovers want to find a carry jungle sort of playstyle like they did in the last game and like they might be looking towards now, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that without the potent Master Yi there. But Kassadin ban from Sheep Lovers signals that they understand they have a lot of magic damage right now with an AP carry and an AP mid. We'll see if they're able to pick up that slack with maybe an AD carry jungler like a Viego, or maybe even something like a Belveth, or a top laner that is able to put out a lot of damage. Dr. Mundo, blind pick top here for Ekin's Anonymous. Again, not the most effective pick in the last game, but for this team fighting more oriented playstyle, it could be what the Kaisa needs to be able to dish out the damage from the safety of this big hunk of flesh that is Dr. Mundo.
What I notice here is that as of right now, Sheep Lovers has no way of going through that health of Dr. Mundo or even the Jarvan. They're picking the Hecarim in the jungle. Hecarim still more of a burst champ in many cases. So I'm interested to see what they're gonna do to counter that Mundo and Jarvan.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by this Hecarim pick, actually. I was expecting a little bit more of a consistent damage dealer from the jungle, or I guess we can see the fifth pick from Sheep Lovers. Maybe it'll be in the top. We see
Ooh.
Kled picked out, a really uncommon pick, looking like it's going to be played by Dragorite. Kled with built-in anti-heal, not the worst pick versus Dr. Mundo, but this is, again, something pretty new, and we're going to see if Ekin's Anonymous is able to deal with this really kind of unconventional draft with the Hecarim Kled top jungle.
It seems like they're really trying to predict what Ivan's gonna pick in the mid lane, and their entire team is focused around shutting this one player down. And whoa,
Wow. So it looks like Viego mid lane might be picked by Ivan. We've seen this hidden technology being spread around some servers in the past, but this is this is a really interesting pick. I don't know how I feel about this. Malzahar still able to do that huge shutdown with the ultimate onto any of the enemy team, and Viego not really a fan of that, I would say. The Kaisa, the Viego really looking to be prioritized by the Malzahar's ultimate, having that suppression, able to stop the Viego from collecting bodies, able to stop the Kaisa from ulting away. And I am not sure how to feel about this potential Viego mid lane pick. We'll see how it matches up against the Malzahar. And although I don't doubt Ivan, I don't know if it's going to play too well with the team fight comp.
I think both of these comps are actually really interesting, with Sheep Lovers not having much consistent damage to take out the Mundo and Jarvan. And if Ivan decides to go tankier on the Viego pick, it might be tough for them to go through that as well. On the other hand, the Ekins, it's just a very interesting composition over there. A lot of people that the Kaisa and the Viego especially that can do damage, but with the shutdown that the Sheep Lovers have, it might not be easy for them.
Mm-hmm. I am really interested to see how this top lane matchup goes this time. Again, Kled, more of a damage-oriented character than Shen was for sure. We'll see if Dragorite goes towards a more bruisery build or maybe even lethality Kled. But in the past game, he was kind of focused down by a couple Nocturne ganks. During the Paranoia, his come up with was kind of silent. The Shen was not making huge waves aside from some defensive utility. So we'll see if he can be a playmaker in this game.
And the Nautilus and Malzahar picks are actually looking a lot more out of place here, considering they don't have a lot of damage to be able to take down that one target. And the target selection for Malzahar is also a lot tougher here. If he wants to go for the Kaisa, it's gonna be you got to go through that Mundo and that Jarvan. If he wants to go for the Viego might be more tanky, so it might not be worth anything.
Mm-hmm. I am just kind of concerned for maybe some access onto the backline that we're going to see for the Sheep Lovers. In the last game, they had the Master E who was able to kind of just run past everybody and dive onto a priority target. But this game looks like a Nivea Kled maybe not having that same potency.
I think having that Kled and Hecarim is actually a pretty interesting synergy with them being. I think they have pretty good access to the Kaisa, but the follow up is not there. With Hecarim and Kled going at such a faster pace into the team fight, it's gonna be if they get Kaisa, they get Kaisa. If they don't, it's pretty tough for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, and it is going to be interesting seeing if they're going to play with the more slow-paced zoning play style of some mages like Anivia and Malzahar, and how that's going to interact with their big go, go, go buttons of the Kled and the Hecarim ultimates. I don't know if those two conflicting styles are necessarily going to clash, or whether the Sheep Lovers are going to be able to make use of those two different ways of playing and have them come into synergy. Whereas Ekin's Anonymous have had a lot of changes in the past game. We see the Seraphine pick that is a confident pick from picking Nikki. We do see the Kaisa that Cristiano Ronaldo is comfortable on. And this Viego mid is kind of the big question mark of the game. I think that everything else we can kind of explain away, but this Viego mid is just going to be, we're going to have to see whether that first reset does come through in a team fight. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it's going to be that easy getting a first reset. It might be an angle to just target down the support and take down the Nautilus to get that first body on the Viego, but that does mean you're sending a lot to the Nautilus, and I don't know if that's the most effective way for Ekin's Anonymous to take the rest of the game. So as we load up into the game, we're going to be trying to see what the situation is with the lanes, who gets some early advantages, And with the Jarvan, we are going to be seeing some capabilities for pretty early ganks that are very effective with the EQ combo from the Jarvan, able to provide a fair amount of damage and certainly a lot of crowd control for bot lane to capitalize on. Again, maybe not tile lane to the top lane. The Mundo hopefully going to be able to neutralize the Kled if you're an Ekin's Anonymous fan. But if you are a sheep lover fan, if you're a lover of the sheep, you might want to see Dragonite popping off on the Kled.
I think picking that Viego into the Malzahar might also indicate that Ivan's not looking to stay in that mid lane. He's maybe looking to use that stealth and that mobility that Viego has to go into the bot lane, into the top lane, and maybe make leads there instead of focusing on his own lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where we did see the LeBlanc able to split push a lot last game, we weren't able to see that power of the LeBlanc and that damage, the heavy ability to find one target and just get them out of the fight before it even starts. We are not going to see that same sort of capability with the Viego, who is more about getting the resets and just going from one target to the next. But we are going to hopefully get a little bit more action in this game with big team fights popping out, even more action, I should say, than the last, which was an exciting game in and of itself. I don't know if the Jarvan is going to be able to enable the Kaisa as much as it could. I know that the Seraphine, able to proc the Plasma with the E, with the R, is going to be very helpful for enabling the Kaisa and peeling away from divers like the Kled and the Hecarim. But we're just going to have to see if that's enough, because Hecarim is a really effective champion at creating a lot of chaos in the fights with the ultimate, that fear, the mobility and the displacement able to come into effect a lot. And I am really excited to be able to go into this game and just sort of see what this new sort of setup from each team is able to bring us. Even though we had a lot of the same bans, a few key removals from each side, such as the Master Yi ban from Ekin's Anonymous, helps us shift the game around. And of course, this Viego mid pick shifts the game around a lot. We are just waiting to get the observers and casters into the game. So in the meantime, this is a 1-0 game advantage for sheep lovers. And if they win this, they win the entire tournament. That's it for the League of Legends Game-a-thon fall series. And the sheep lovers will be crowned victorious and take home their Vertex GX 850s. But if the case is that the Ekins are able to level the series at 1-1 and take this game, we're going to be seeing a game 3 with a lot of cards shown from each of the team's hands. We've already seen the LeBlanc, we've already seen the Master Yi. We're seeing the Viego mid this game, and we're going to be seeing the Kled and the Hecarim and the Malzahar. So going into game 3 with a potential Ekins Anonymous win, we'll see if we go back to game 1, go with more of game 2, or just a change of both.
I really want to see how Ivan really plays out this Viego mid. Given that he is the highest ranked player on their team, is he going to try to facilitate other lanes or is he going to try to take resources for himself here? It's very different from the assassin playstyle that he is used to, but if this does go well for the Ekans, it really mixes it up for this potential game 3, and they won't know what Ivan's going to be playing.
Mm-hmm. I do hope to see a little bit more of a selfless role being played from the rest of the team, because I think that, it just might be the case that the Ekins star player in this game is Cristiano Ronaldo. We know that he's good at football, but is he good at Kaisa? We'll be seeing if the Kaisa can scale hyper into the late game and be able to take down the targets that might need taking down, such as the Hecarim once some more tanky items are built, such as the Kled with the dismounts and remounts, and even the Malzahar with that spell shield that'll make them a little tricky to take down in some of these fights. So I really want to see this Kaisa enabled. They have the potential to scale and they have the potential to carry, but we just need to get there. On the opposing side, we're going to see the Anivia again. They were a great lane neutralizer for the brand and able to pull ahead in CS early on. We're going to see if that's the same case, because this is not a brand. This is a more conventional AD carry mid, even if we see the Kaisa go into the AP poke build later on. But again, bottom lane matchup, going to be interesting to see. But it was pretty strongly in favor favor of Team Sheep last time with them getting prio on second and third dragons and the like. But if the Kaisa is able to pull ahead early, get a kill or two, that could spell a really bad story for the sheep lovers going forward. First waves meeting in mid, it is indeed the Viego mid flash TP that we are seeing. And although the Malzahar is more of a conventional mid pick, I don't know if the Malzahar Viego matchup has been studied much by either of these players. So we'll just see how that goes. Early hook from Malthusian onto the bot lane, able to get some decent damage onto the Kaisa.
We see both junglers starting on the top side, so we might be looking at a potential 3v3 in the bot lane once these two junglers get all the way down. It also indicates that they might not be considering the top lane as much. Given that it's Kled versus Mundo, they might see it as a more stable lane, and they're moving their focus towards this Anivia and Nautilus or Kaisa Seraphine bot lane here.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like this mid lane probably just going to be bouncing, not looking like there's too much kill threat since both these mid laners look like they're going to have flash and keep having it. But we're going to see maybe closer to the 3-minute, 3:30 mark as these junglers clear towards the bot side, a fight breakout with the engaged potential of the Hecarim and the Nautilus on the sheep side and the potential of the Jarvan and Seraphine to set up big combos on the Ekin side. Viego mid, not something I've personally seen that much before, but it's holding its own really well against the Malzahar. A strong CS lead in these early couple waves. The tier Malzahar, not a super strong early trader or poker or wave clearer, but is going to be trying to scale up and stay in the lane for as long as possible with that increased amount of mana. Malzahar, just about pressing skills on the wave and seeing if you can push it really fast. That's kind of the name of the game until you get some other items that allow you to be more of a threat, like Leandri's Torment.
What I am worried about is as we go into the late game, the sheep lovers really their combos struggle to do anything because all this support that they have, and Hecarim is not going to be able to be the one that dishes out all the damage. If they lock down someone with the Malzahar, with the Kled, with the Hecarim ult, the Nautilus, everyone's just there to lock down. They don't have any of the damage.
Oh, flash hook from Nautilus out onto Picky Nicky. Flag drag from the Jarvan, but it looks like this big bot lane fight is going to be changed by the Viego and taking the form of the Nautilus, able to make the difference as we do see a more team-oriented playstyle from Ivan coming up here.
And I think the prediction that was made earlier about them looking more towards Ballin was correct. We did see that 3v3, and it did go in favor of the E-Kittens.
And importantly, a 4v3 with Viego turning up at the very last second to shift the tides in the Ekin's favor. That's going to be a really big swing for them, and an early lead for Kaisa is an early lead for the Ekins.
The fact that Ivan was able to move down with this vehicle pick and the Malzahar was not, I think it might be an indicator of things to come.
Kled Dragger able to take down the Dr. Mundo. The early power of the Kled in these fights is really shown here. Herald Pit, we do see the Jarvan being chunked down a bit, but able to just hop over the wall with that EQ combo, and the game is going into more of a neutral state. Again, kill onto Kled in this top lane is going to swing the matchup a lot into his favor. This might be why we saw the Kled counter pick come out. Draggerite feeling confident in the ability to win the lane as Kled, but we're going to see if that one lane ends up in a one game. Because again, this Dr. Mundo is going to scale to infinity and beyond, Buzz Lightyear style. And that HP might be enough to mitigate the effectiveness of the Kled later in the game. Look at this top lane, another gank coming through, Draggerite with the damage, missing the bear track on a trap on a stick, and Mundo able to get out with just the ghost popped, but still a big HP chunk lost. And it looks like the tower is enough to help kill that Kled, the pesky Kled getting the advantage in the top lane, just taken down by the Mundo, and Mundo swinging that heavy PhD around, able to kill the Hecarim as well, and that might just be the hero play that Ekins were looking for all along. The Mundo invisible, or almost in the last game, shredded by the Master Yi, able to take the advantage.
I think this is a really big problem for sheep lovers with this Mundo being ahead and their lack of consistent damage. Once Mundo pops that ult, he's not going to be able to get stopped. Mundo goes where he pleases, and they have no way of stopping that. Uh, if that Mundo does not keeps going unchecked, it's going to be very tough for the sheep lovers.
And speaking of unchecked, this bottom dragon going to be what looks like a free one for the Eakins. The Mundo play gave them so much tempo on the map that they're able to just get that and walk out scot-free.
If we recall from the last game, the Eakins also started off with a sizable lead, but in the end did not was not able to transition that into a victory. So although they are doing very well right now, this may not be an indicator of how this game will end.
I do have some different expectations, though. I think that having the top laner be Uncled instead of a tank like Shen means that their team fight effectiveness might be a little bit more limited going on to the late game, where the tanks like Mundo start becoming really, really influential and helping peel away for the hyper carries of the game, being the Viego and the Kaisa, is going to matter all the more. And yeah, like you were mentioning, this Mundo already strong and only going to get stronger, it seems like, as the Grubs being taken down by Iron Wolfie. Dragon and Grubs, not something you usually see, but both of the neutral objectives early on go to the side of the Eakins, and this game is looking quite good for them. Again, we see some top lane action brewing, but in the bot lane, it's kind of just dead silence. And where the brand was going down in CS later on, ooh, an early Malzahar kill onto the Viego. That's not good for Ekins. We were thinking that this Viego pick was sort of the uh, ace in the hole for Ekins, and is going to be the thing to shut them down, shut down the Sheep team. But Becca, with the flash utilized, with the ult utilized, able to counteract that play. Dr. Mundo getting dived in the top lane by the Hecarim and by the Kled, able to pop the ult and regen up. And it looks like with the assistance of Iron Wolfie, able to just sort of disengage. And that is a good usage of that tank ability, you know, blinding the Mundo, seeing what it goes into, and just ulting no matter what. That is a great way to play if you're looking to have this tank stay relevant in this game. And of course, having that extra 2 kills and getting the extra gold for HP certainly helps in increasing the survivability. But looking at this bot lane, Cristiano Ronaldo maybe sending a penalty kick over the way of Sheep with a big CS advantage, 10 creeps in favor of Kaisa early on. And with the scaling power of Kaisa, that lead might only increase as we go further. With a static Shiv being picked up soon from Cristiano Ronaldo, we're going to see an increased amount of wave clearing potential and just more and more CS fly as the numbers rack up. Viego, an interesting mid pick that's been picked up a little bit more in recent times, being able to use the WQ combo, proc sudden impact, and cheat out a little bit of free damage from the runes, is looking like it's pretty decent against the Malzahar, able to go up in CS. But again, maybe Ivan underestimating his opponent. Another fight in the mid lane breaks out, and I might have to eat my words because Becca is taking a lot of damage and goes down to Ivan. I cast a curse to you, Becca. I'm sorry.
I think that that was a pretty big mistake by Sheep Lowers. Playing that Malzahar means that you're not really looking to win your lane. You're just looking for that scaling and for that team fight potential. But dying there means that Ivan's able to get that lead and potentially spread it across the map.
Yeah, we do see some rotations going down towards the bot lane, but it is Cristiano Ronaldo going down in the Kaisa first. A good gang coming out from Bigger Gig. We'll see if that Hecarim is able to be the difference maker like the Master Yi was last game, but I do have some doubts about his carry potential. We do see Dr. Mundo ghosting up in the top lane, just disengaging and living a quiet and peaceful life, as doctors do. We see Viego. I was interested to see the build path, and it looks like it is going to be static Shiv Viego coming out in the mid lane. Looks like it's going to be an effective purchase against Malzahar, spawning the little voidlings that are annoying, but it's a little bit quick to take down. And having that static Shiv means that you're able to clear out a lot more of the wave at once. So 1Q might be all you need to neutralize this Malzahar's wave clear and effective potential. We do see a fight breaking out in the top lane. Dragorite going in onto C minus, and looks like Dragorite's able to get the kill. Now, this is a Mundo that is really tanky, but Kled has naturally built in anti-heal onto the bear trap on a stick, the Q. So once that chain lands and it starts pulling in on the Mundo, that healing is going to be mitigated severely. And that might be what makes the difference in this matchup. Dragorite happy to take a solo kill and able to even up the standings with Dr. Mundo much more.
I think what the static shift from Viego means is that he really is going to be looking for that style. As we see here, he's walking down for this dragon that is spawning very soon.
Mm-hmm. Static Shiv also picked up on Kaisa. Both of these uh, really scaling carries, hitting their first spike. And while they might not be as powerful as some other early game fighters like the Hecarim or maybe even the Kled, we do see them having a lot of potential for damage here. Hook goes in, but a big Seraphine ult, big
Oh,
Cataclysm. It's looking not great as Viego gets the first reset for the Sheep team. Uh, Fight continuing on. Kled able to take down the Jarvan, but another kill goes right back onto the Kled, and Nivea goes into the egg. There's going to be taken down before she can even get back up. And Malthusian started off the fight pretty strong, but the team just falls apart around him. And the game ends up swaying into the favor of Ekins pretty heavily, as big kills onto the carries is really what you want. We saw the Master Yi get fed and fed and fed, which led to getting him even more fed in the first game. And if this Viego already has a shutdown 12 minutes in, plate's not even fallen yet, this is going to be a huge problem for the blue side to face. Bigger Gig just trying to de-push the mid wave, but you can see that Viego is no slouch, and a lot of the players on the blue side of Team Sheep still haven't met their first big spikes yet. Hecarim sitting on just components and the Boots of Lucidity, not quite yet with a full Eclipse or any other item, and the first item spikes are kicking in for pretty much everybody else right now. The second Drake, Hextech, going to be claimed by Team E-Kittens, and just not really any contesting coming out from Team Sheep. They are going to be looking towards the top side a little bit more, sending the mid jungle focus around there, getting themselves 3 grubs to match the 3 grubs of Eakins, but losing out around the map is going to be a little bit troublesome for them. As Viego heads back home, picks up a pickaxe, picks up a quick cloak, I am afraid of this Viego, and I'm not even playing the game. It's looking a little bit scary for the blue side as Dr. Mundo trading with the Kled up here gets the dismount, but Kled is going to be able to take that and just take it all.
I do see that Kled has gone for an Eclipse build. I think that this is probably not the best idea actually because of it's not going to help him take out that Mundo. I think if he had opted for a more bruiser type build, it would provide more frontline and also give some sort of consistent damage for the sheep lovers, as they have none right now.
Mm-hmm. And we do see the teams skirmishing in the bottom side jungle. The jump is onto the Hecarim, and he gets taken down in a millisecond. Becca now being chased down. Viego living with a sliver of HP, and that is another huge play for Ekins. They're making a lot more coordinated movements around the map, it seems, this game, working with the jungle, working with the mid, and having more rotations that are able to build up the leads around the map that you need. And again, yeah, this Eclipse Kled, Eclipse Hecarim, who's going to be shredding the armor of the Mundo once he gets a Sunfire Aegis? Or who's going to be taking down the Jarvan once he builds more shields and gets a Stair Axe? It's going to be really troublesome as Cristiano Ronaldo popping that ward in the bush real close. Picky Nicky finds it and gets the vision of that tri-bush for them to cover a potential Hecarim gank. Again, I don't know if the odds are looking too good for Team Sheep. They might have drafted themselves a bit into a hole with this one. I think they were trying to get creative, trying to come up with counters to the Blind Mundo with the Kled, trying to use the Hecarim as dive potential onto the rather squishier bot lane of Kaisa Seraphine if they're not able to get their abilities off. But they are getting their abilities off, and they're hurting. Sheep up a little bit in CS, but I don't know if this Nivea is going to be able to carry this game as one of the only members who is still winning in their matchup. Herald spawning with Dragon still a ways off. We're going to see if both the teams decide to contest this objective. As Iron Wolfie is in that topside area and having the jungler near the objective does mean that it's probably going to go towards Ekin's Anonymous. We see a little bit of split push coming out from Becca. We see again just the isolated 1v1 island of the Kled versus Mundo. But importantly, Hecarim not able to take any objective on the map, and Iron Wolfie on the Jarvan for looking like they're going to be able to secure this Herald for the red side. And any objective taken means more map control, more gold, and more power put into the pockets of the E-Kittens.
We do see that Viego has purchased a shield bow, so you might be playing for more of a reset focused game play style where he's not the one doing the damage but is waiting for the Kaisa for the Jarvan to kill somebody and then become them and then continue the fight on, as the shield bow gives him the survivability to live until that point in a fight.
Yeah, and I think it's really crucial to know that Viego, Kaisa, these champions aren't necessarily the ones who want to go in first, as we see the Jarvan crash the Herald into the top lane. Viego and Kaisa kind of like being the ones to go in, just after the first folks go in. If the Dr. Mundo charges forward, if the Jarvan lands a nice stun, then we are able to see the Viego and the Kaisa fly in, swoop in, get the resets, get the kills, and get the damage spread out with the static shift procs from enemy hero kills. I am really frightened of this Viego as their CS lead only keeps growing, the shutdown only keeps getting larger, and as they keep getting more resilient and more threatening. The Viego on the sideline already pushing back the Malzahar. Not something you want to see as a Malzahar comp, but what you do want to see are those three plated steel caps coming out from Kled, Malzahar, and Anivia, figuring out that Jarvan, Mundo, Viego, and Kaisa, to an extent, all deal a lot of physical damage. Kaisa likely going towards a more AP focused build since the rest of the team is mostly AD. But nevertheless, we're going to be seeing these plated steel caps having a fair amount of early damage mitigation potential from Team Sheep. Now, dragon spawning, we're going to see that Team Ekin's Anonymous has more control around the pit. And then again, we have Hecarim just taking camps in the jungle, Kled pushing out top, and this objective, Soul Point, goes the way of Ekins. Not a good look. Really just kind of unable to find plays as Team Sheep.
This is another Chemtex dragon, so they're able to get the soul. It just further exasperates the sheep lover's lack of consistent damage as the Ekans will get lower in HP, it becomes harder and harder to kill them, and without that consistent damage, they're just not going to be able to burst them up front.
I do like this TP coming out from Mundo, just deep pushing top. And in terms of objectives, top tower not taken, mid tower still standing, bot tower taken by Team Sheep, but they really don't have that much to speak for them. You'd think that giving over the 3 grubs, giving over the 3 dragons, they might be at a tower advantage, but also nil to that. Although their Kled has been pushing on a solo lane a lot of the time, just not able to make use of that power. And the early lead that was potentially gotten by the Kled after that nice kill for him might be mitigated by this Mundo who's now buying up the armor, getting Heartsteel stacks, and just is becoming more and more impossible to deal with. Bot lane fight breaks out, Viego taking huge amounts of penalty onto the Hecarim as we see TP come out from the Malzahar behind, but Iron Wolfie already is able to take down Malthusian. Becca, TP into the backline, but just not able to find the connection that she needs to be able to land an effective ult and be able to take down a key target. You need your team with you, and you need to be coordinated for these kinds of plays to work. And unfortunately, for Team Sheep, they're just a step behind the entire way through. We do have C- getting fought by Sheep in the top lane, but that's still a Mundo, and that's still an Anivia. Just not enough damage in this Anivia's wings to be able to stop this Mundo from becoming a billionaire and having great deals across the map. As tier 2 bot is taken by Ekin's Anonymous, and it's really rough. I do sound like a broken record, but the problem is I don't know if it gets easier. Viego scales up looking to pick up a serrated Dark, going some lethality. Kaisa having that Ginsu's Rage Blade, having the Static Shiv, indexing towards this magic damage mixed build, and we're going to see some huge Kaisa Ws popping off soon. And against a team with big bodies like Hecarim and Anivia and the Nautilus, I don't know if they're going to be able to dodge all of those Cristiano Ronaldo field goals, and some of those might find their market score. As the Baron is spawned up, we do have a bit of a lull in the game with teams just sort of meeting in the waves and fighting them out.
I think this Kaisa building a more AP style is really pretty smart considering all the shutdown that the sheep lovers have. Being able to sit that far back and just shoot out those missiles at the sheep lovers makes it so that They're all poked out before the fight, and then before they can even try to shut them down, they're already losing the fight, given that they're all relatively short range, and they really want to get in there and engage, but when the Kai'Sa is shooting from across the map, you really have no choice.
Yeah, as a person who has played against Kaisa a fair amount, I'm not a fan. It's really frustrating to play against because Kaisa has a lot of safety with this build and still a lot of damage. We do see Malthusian getting caught out a bit on the Nautilus, hooking away, able to get away for now, but Killer Instinct comes from Cristiano Ronaldo, but Cristiano Ronaldo might have dove too deep. Hecarim able to kill him under the tower, and it might be a full retreat. But a big Seraphine ult catches 4 on the side of the E-Kittens. Becca flashes still into the Cataclysm, very low, gonna be taken out by C-. Anivia still in the Resurrection, but what looked like it could be a good fight early on has turned into a disaster for the Team Sheep.
I think this unending despair purchase by the Mundo is really smart since they have no way to shut him down early, and the only anti-heal they have right now is on the Nautilus, and it's a Thornmail, so if C- does not auto-attack Nautilus, it's completely worthless. I think that it would have been a better idea to put it on maybe the Anivia or the Hecarim who can apply to more people at once.
Yeah, it's just not easy for any of these blue side players to find a way into this game. It seems like they've already been boxed out, and I don't want to sound like a doomer, but this Baron is maybe more than enough to just seal out this game, even if it doesn't end off the Baron. The advantage that they're going to get being able to pinch out these towers, get this final dragon for the Kentex Soul, and maybe even siege on to the inhibitor towers and to the inhibitors themselves. I just don't see a way for the blue side to get back into this game. I think it would take a really miraculous fight where Kaisa dies early on and also Viego dies, because we saw Kaisa die early on, and that was not nearly enough with some huge clutch ults being pushed out from the Jarvan of Iron Wolfie and the Seraphine of Pinky Nicky. And I am just really, really concerned for the way that the Team Sheep is playing these sorts of games. We saw them play together really connected, really strong, and team oriented in the first game. But this game, it's kind of flipped the script. You want to know who's playing together? It's this Jarvan with 12 kills participation and this Viego with 14 kill participation out of 16. These two have been making a lot of plays around the map, and their shutdowns reflect the impact that they've had. I think that the same impact has just not been felt by the mid jungle duo of Bigger Gig and Becca.
This is really a departure from the playstyle that Ivan had from last game, where he was kind of focused on solo killing in his lane, where in this game with the Viego pick, he's been making moves around the map and spreading this lead. And we see a team fight break out right now, and they all disengage. It seems like they did not want to fight there, which might be a smart move from the Sheep Lovers.
Yeah, right now, Sheep Lovers kind of just in damage control. The Anivia and the Malzahar really effective in pushing out the waves. We're going to see Mundo engaged on the bot lane, but this is a tank Mundo. Be a little bit wary. The team is far from connecting, though, and this Mundo might just be able to get run down, but nope. Pop the ghost, waddles away, and that's Mundo making bank. Corporate for the win. We do see another fight breaking out in the mid. Some quick kills going the way of Cristiano Ronaldo, and Becca and Malthusian taking down, meaning that a lot of the wave clear and peel potential is just gone straight up from the blue side. Team Sheep facing down the Baron.
I really think this might be it, actually. This is looking like a really strong push, and with 10 seconds left on the Malzahar, it might not be enough time for them to be able to save these last two Nexus towers. And it seems like they're pivoting towards this top turret.
Yeah, top side looks like it might be the focus. Red side, figuring out that they might not want to push things too far too quick. Dr. Mundo, low, caught behind the wall, but it is Viego trying to go onto the Hecarim in the bottom side, but that sort of means he sells out his Mundo in the top. That's not the art of the deal that you're looking for. Kled running forward straight for the back line, and there's the Malzahar ult that we were all waiting for. A huge shutdown from the Kled onto the Viego, and Becca able to come to life and hit that ultimate that she needs to hit onto the Viego.
I think this really shows that there are some moments where the Ekans do become disjointed, where Mundo and Viego were both caught out there with no real reason to be. I think maybe an increase in communication might be in order for the Ekans.
Yeah, and although that was a little bit rough on the tail end from the Eakins, just keep in mind they still have a 12,000 gold lead going into this potential Elder and Baron respawn situation. So although that was a good fight from Team Sheep, it's maybe not enough still. Viego is so accelerated, picking up a last whisper, having that Quicksilver Sash in inventory, mitigating so much of the potential effect of the Malzahar and of the CC from Anivia and Nautilus. We do see the Nashor's Tooth picked up from Kaisa as well, another needlessly large rod in hand, and once they get that full Rabadon's Death Cap, it might be curtains.
We also see that Viego has purchased the QSS, the Malzahar tax, as they call it. This does reduce the effectiveness of Becca's Malzahar on the Viego, but it does not mean that it's useless, since Kaisa is still a very large threat. And if that Malzahar ult lands on her, it could mean much better chances for the sheep lovers here.
Yeah, Baron respawning in a minute 30, Elder respawning closer to 2 minutes, and I am just a little bit distraught to see the state that Team Sheep is in. I think that they might have needed to make a little few more proactive plays, kind of just send it, find a pick or two, maybe send 4 members on the Mundo, maybe try to find a split pushing Viego. But if the game goes as it is, I think that they're just going to be outmatched at this potential Baron fight or Elder fight that's going to pop up. They need more resources, and if they can't get more resources, they need a numbers advantage. But without a pick, without having taken down the beefy front line of Mundo or the huge damage of the Viego, I don't know if they're going to be able to make it happen. As Ekins sieging the entire base, pushing on all fronts, with Mundo on the top, the rest of the team in the mid and bot, and just sort of keeping the blue side boxed in. The sheep are in their pen, and they don't really seem to be being able to be let out soon. As just more and more poke comes in from the Kaisa, from the Mundo Qs, every briefcase just feels like they're paying more and more taxes to Anonymous. With having successfully gained so much control around the different waves, the pushed in team of sheep lovers is just not going to have that much ability to run out to the dragon, run out to the Baron pit, and grab the vision that they need to be able to take a safe fight. It's really a rough situation for them, and without a potential pick or a super play, I think that this Baron is going to be a little rough.
I think right now the best play for the Streetlovers is to just allow the Eakins to get this Baron and either fight them at Elder or see if they can just hunker down and fight against the double buff, which will no doubt be very tough, but it's not looking like they have any other option.
Yeah, they have full vision on the Baron pit, an unswept ward, just letting sheep lovers know that their demise is imminent. As Baron is taken, Elder is spawning 20 seconds, and you know what happens when we have Baron and we have Elder at the same time? That might just be Exodia that is the unstoppable threat. We have 5 members of the red side barreling down mid, just looking to find the end as quick as possible, not even waiting for the Elder. And blue side, the sheep lovers, they're maybe caught a little bit off guard, a little bit late to the defense. This wave is already pushing into the mid towers. We might see the final fight of the game break out here as Malthusian leaps in, gets some CC out, and although the ultimate from Hecarim is not bad at all, Cristiano Ronaldo and Ivan are just getting resets after resets after reset, and it's looking like it's going to be a clean ace again. 5-0, this time in favor of the Eakins Anonymous at the end of game number 2. And we have a huge turnaround from game number 1, and looks like we're going to match number 3. The teams stand at 1-1. Eakins Anonymous and Sheep Lovers are going to face their final test before one of them takes home this entire tournament.
This game really demonstrated that Ivan, even with his assassin playstyle, is able to play for the team and become more of a map player other than a self player. And this really makes Sheep Lovers have to consider what might he pick next. With the Diego pick, it was so out of the blue. They can't just ban out his assassins now. They gotta think, will he pick a control mage? Will he pick another maybe bruiser type mid laner? We just don't know.
Yeah, and again, we saw what felt like the sheep lovers take a lot of agency away from themselves, locking themselves into this box where they have to be ahead by a huge amount at a certain point. With the Hecarim, with the Kled, they need to be able to snowball. But again, they weren't even ahead in the first game until later on. So I feel like this type of draft really did not quite suit the sheep lovers and their way of playing. The ban on the Master Yi, limiting the amount of the ability from the jungle to dictate the pace of the game, and just lacking the scaling potential that was a huge looming threat in the first game, means that Ekin's Anonymous is able to pull through, playing together more as a team, and turning the tables straight onto the sheep lovers. Going into the next game, we are going to be looking at some more potential reimaginings of the way that the teams are drafting. We did see the same core come out from the sheep lovers of uh, of Anivia, Nautilus, and that's those sort of picks. But we really do need to see if that's going to be the same thing going into game 3.
I think the Anivia pick in that last game was a bit of an error because it removed one spot for a potential carry player. I think that maybe if they were to move the Anivia mid and have a more damage heavy bot laner, or perhaps keep the supportive mid laner and go for more damage heavy bot laner. The last game they just didn't have any direction in their draft for who was going to really be the one to do all the damage.
Mm-hmm. And again, shout out to seasonic, the sponsor of our League of Legends tournament. Again, first place takes home some huge power supplies, the Vertex GX 850s. Second place with the Magflow 1225 PWM fan kits. And seasonic, thank you for helping bring our prizes to life and helping motivate these players to give us a really great 3-game series as we look forward to the next one. seasonic, we'll have a quick message from them, and then we'll get back into some more discussion and some more hype for the last game of our League of Legends tournament. the more AP carry comp with a brand, or with having that scaling hyper damage dealer of the Kai'Sa. And I did really like seeing that coming out this game. I think that the Kai'Sa Seraphine bot lane was able to stem the bleeding a lot more versus the Anivia. And you do have to imagine Anivia 2 games in a row. While it isn't an unconventional pick, the first time you see it, the second time you see it, maybe you figured out how to deal with it. And it seems like Ekin's non-miss were able to do that. So again, looking at the bot lane, how each team wants to play around those, and if the bot lane is going to be the win con, I do have my reservations, if I'm going to be honest, about the Anivia bot. In the first game, it was an effective neutralizer for the LeBlanc a lot of the time, able to de-push the split-pushing LeBlanc's waves, and in a couple of instances, even take down the LeBlanc in some great reversals from Sheep. But I'm wondering if we do see the Cho'Gath and the Galio bands come out again. I don't know if we're going to have the Scion come out at all, or whether it's just going to be more of the Anivia. I do also want to see if Ivan has any more secret pocket picks hidden up his sleeve. We saw the LeBlanc, a more conventional assassin, and Viego mid, maybe a less conventional assassin.
And this series has really been, I think, a lot about adaptation, where Ekans were able to notice the trend that sheep lovers were giving, where they would focus down on the mid laner, and instead of having that be the carry, have him spread his lead across the map and focus more on roaming instead of solo kills in the mid lane.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to give a shout out just quickly to Picky Nicky, who, although having a rougher game in game number 1, was able to be really effective on the Seraphine and find some huge ults. Although the lowest rated player in the game, I found that the Seraphine was one of the most important ones in sustaining through the team fights and through landing those ults to disengage and peel away for the carries. That allowed the damage to be dished out by the Kai'Sa, by the Viego, and so the resets could come through and the team fights could be won. So Ekins feeling a lot more cohesive than they did in game 1 and giving themselves that win condition that didn't rely solely on Ivan.
I want to see if either team will change up their strategy in this last game, because, well, first game, the Ekans were really focused on that LeBlanc pick, and second game they did play a more team-oriented playstyle. Do you think that they're gonna go back to that focus one person, or do you think they're gonna continue this team-oriented?
I am maybe hopeful that the Ekins have realized that having only one win condition is maybe limiting yourself a lot. Just having the LeBlanc scale up and one-shot everybody might work well in solo queue, but the team play that Team Sheep was able to go for in the that was really the difference maker there. So again, team play for Sheep in game 1, team play for Ekins in game 2. We're going to see who's able to make that difference with the superior team fighting and the macro strategy in game number 3. I feel like it's going to be a really different style of drafting from both teams, where each of them gives themselves a lot of outs. They'd maybe draft some more scaling, bring back some of the tanks that we saw in the first games, and just enable themselves to have more outs to get the victory in game 3.
Personally, what I really want to see is a more volatile matchup in the top lane. It's been Mundo for the last 2 games for the Ekans, and I kind of want to see Myas on one of his more carry picks, such as Gwen or Renekton or Aurelio.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Gwen and the Camille banned away in these first 2 games. And you know what? I'm not holding out too many hopes that the bans are going to change that much. But I do wonder if we're going to see maybe a Renekton, maybe an Aurelia, or just something that has more playmaking potential that can find those big flanks and make a lot of impact in team fights just based on where you're standing and the positioning. I do think that the jungle matchup again is going to be really important. We saw each of the junglers make huge impacts on the games in which they performed the best. With of course, the Master Yi in game 1, but also shout out to Iron Wolfie's Jarvan in game number 2. I think we sung a lot of praises for the Viego's roams. We talked about how the Seraphine was able to peel away for the team, but the Jarvan also right place, right time, stacking up assists, stacking up influence on the map, and just able to kind of be at the objectives where Hecarim was not. And I think that that sort of style is really nice. Where if you just pick the Jarvan blind, maybe Hecarim isn't so easy of a matchup in the 1v1. But in the team fights, Jarvan still found some huge cataclysms onto multiple members, and the Hecarim didn't look like it was the big counter, the big win con that Team Sheep might have wanted it to be. But of course, both the teams have diverse jungle profiles. I think we could certainly see Iron Wolfie on a more tanky jungler, such as the Skarner going into game number 3, and maybe seeing some of those carries come out in the top lane and swap out the roles there.
I think what would be really, really interesting is if Ivan were to go into a really supportive role with maybe a mage like Lissandra, or even he plays Malzahar this time, and just shows how the skill gap between these two players, in terms of rank at least, really would shine through even if Ivan is not the main carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just in terms of main carries, seen most all roles in the game be that difference maker. We saw the jungle, we saw the mats, just able to do a huge amount for each of the teams. As a top lane player, I'm hoping we get to see some top carries. That's all I'll say. But the Mundo did prove to be a great wall in game number 2 for Ekin's Anonymous. So honestly, wouldn't be surprised to see them go back to it as a comfort pick. And having played it 2 games in the series, I'm sure that C- has already developed a lot of counterplay for Dragorite, and that Mundo is just going to get even scarier going to the 3rd game.
I also wonder if maybe sheep lovers are gonna focus on ganking a bit more. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I saw them do that very much in the last few games. Maybe it was because of a fear that they would be outplayed in some way, or that many times the positioning was not right. But I think playing around that mid laner and trying to, even with a skill gap, beat him down in that kind of way will work.
Yeah, I am really a little bit concerned for the sort of reactive play style that it feels like Team Sheep kind of has to play with stuff like the Anivia bot lane, and just paired with the Nautilus, where they have pretty decent counter engage and ability to save themselves from the push and the dive threats that Ekans might threaten, but it's not going to be the same as having that Kaisa who's able to dive into the back line and assassinate a key target. It's not the same as maybe like a Draven who's going to be able to just run you down. It's an Anivia who's going to be slower and more controlled for sure. And I just don't know if that's going to be an easy way to play the game with such fast-paced movements around the map from junglers like the Jarvan or the Nocturne who are able to collapse on you in an instant.
You mentioned Draven. I think Cristiano Ronaldo's 3 main picks are Draven, Kai'Sa, Brand. We've seen the Kai'Sa and the Brand. Do you think we're going to see the Draven in this last game?
I hope so. I think that Draven's volatility adds a lot of spice to the game. So, as a fan and as an observer, I am loving that possibility. But I think the Kaisa worked so well in game number 2 and was able to do so strongly against the Anivia that it seemed like that pick was just kind of a non-factor. The Kaisa is able to get through the first layer of the Anivia quite easily, and with the E resets on the auto attacks, able to get a lot more attack speed, able to proc the passive plasma. And I don't really feel that Anivia is the pick that Team Sheep needs for game number 3. I think that having the Kaiser or the Draven against it might be a really big threat. And I don't know if Team Sheep is ready to pivot away from this comp that they've drafted quite similarly for games 1 and 2.
I think an issue that Team Sheep comes into is that if they pick a team comp that's focused on locking down one person, it becomes harder to deal with when EKNs pick 3 potential carries, and they can't lose focus on how they have to play in each individual lane instead of just focusing on team fight and team
Mhm.
play.
No matter the picks, though, I think the big thing that is that the teams need to play as a unit. And unfortunately, I just think that Team Sheep was less together in the second game. I think that going behind early in the first game and coming back to get that win for game number 1 was really helpful for them. But going behind in the second game, sometimes it's just something you can't recover from. The leads keep scaling and the advantages keep growing, especially when you have scaling picks like the Mundo or the Viego or the Kaisa that you just can't really let go unchecked for that long. And once they get a lead, it might not be so easy to come back from.
I think that one play when Eakins were in the base of Sheep and had two people get caught out shows that even if they seem overall better, there are some times where the egos of these solo laners might come out a little bit and maybe mess up the team play a little. So if Sheep Builders can capitalize on those slip ups, I think it's going to be really big in these two games, in this last game.
No, that's for sure. I won't say I'm a player without an ego, but I do hope that these players are able to recognize that their team is the most important thing for these games. You can split push all you want, you can take isolated 1v1s and win them, but at the end of the day, if the enemy team wins the 4v4 and they get an objective or something like that, that's going to be a winning play for them and not you. So we want to see the focus off of just one person, maybe, and it matters so much more about how the team plays around them. Even the like 20 kill Master Yi that we had in game number 1, that was off of the backs of the CC and the engage and the counter engage that was offered by picks like the Annie or like the Shen. And without that team playing around you, you can't pop off in that same way. So although individuals matter, maybe the team just matters more in the end. And this third game will help us figure out who that best team is in our league tournament. I do want to highlight a comment from Vicky Nikki before the game. They have wanted to break their second place curse for the Game-a-thon for quite a while. And although it looked not so great for them after the first game, game number 2 maybe is that chance for Picky Nicky to get that first place in the Game-a-thon. As they told us before the game, better mid wins. And this game really will help us see that because even if Ivan is a higher rank, Becca has shown that she's able to give a lot of utility towards her team with picks like the Annie. And the Malzahar, although maybe a good idea in shutting down some of the hyper carries in Viego and Kaisa, was just not enough. And we might see a switch back towards more utility, CC, control mage, like that Annie. On the flip side, Becca has said that uh, they do want to contain the beasts that are the mid jungle duo of Ekins. And as we load into the game, we'll see if they keep targeting away the mid lane and the jungle of Team E-Kittens. So we've got Sheep on the blue side, we've got Ekins on the red side, and we are going to focus a lot on these first couple of bans. They've been the same for the past few games, but we've seen some changes with the Yi ban, most notably. And if there is a little bit of change up that I could ever, hope for, a little early Christmas wish for me, I want to see some carry top lane matchups. I want to see the Camille and the Gwen let through, and I want to see if that's going to be able to change up the way that these games play. Again, we do have a couple of other scary picks on the line for these players to pick up. Renekton played pretty heavily by both of the top laners of the teams. We have seen some Shens, we have seen some Mundos, but where's the spice at? Pull out a Yone top or something like that. I want to see that. In the mid lane, it is probably going to be another carry for Ivan, likely another supportive pick for Becca. And the rest of the lanes, we are just going to see how the drafts develop around those, with some potential surprise picks in the bot lane from each of the AD carry specialists or AP carry, I guess I should say, for Sheep. And for support and jungle, we're going to be seeing how they're going to be able to either enable their team to succeed, or whether they're going to be maybe mage supports, or they're going to be carry junglers who are going to control and dictate the flow of the game. So exciting stuff happening all throughout the lanes for game number 5. And we're just going to want to see where the priority lies for the picks and the bans.
I'm really hoping that these two teams will ban something different in the first ban phase. Uh, I understand that they are scared of these picks, but I'm thinking maybe if they let it through, it can be kind of like a make them blind pick it and then see if you can counter it within next pick.
Yeah, exactly. We are always balancing whether, we want to return to the Master Yi, whether we want to return to the Viego mid, um, with the potential for new and unexpected picks, like the Galio or the Draven, any of these picks that might throw a spanner in the wrench and have these teams develop some uncertainty with the way they want to draft. And give us a lot more potential for new and exciting fights to happen in the game. I think that there is a strong possibility that we see Kaisa come out again for eKittens Anonymous. I don't think the ban priority is going to be too high on that. But if it is an Anivia blind pick, maybe banning the Kaisa is worth it because it seemed like that was a really rough matchup for Sheep in this second game.
I hope that the way that Sheep deals with the Kaisa might not be to ban it, but to change up what they're picking in the bot lane. We've seen that Sheep is able to play a variety of different champions that may or may not be AD carries. But I think that seeing something other than Anivia would be quite a treat for us and the viewers.
I think so too. I think that, maybe we've been hyping it up a little bit too much, but Sheep really has been the X factor in the past couple of tournaments, in the past couple of games that we've seen. But on these games today, I think it's been a little bit of a lackluster performance off of the comfort picks of things like the Galio and the Cho'Gath.
I think if she were to pick the Galio here, it would fit the theme of them trying to lock down this mid laner with Galio's CC ability and the roam potential with the Galio's ult. But it might not be ideal for keeping the bot lane in check.
Yeah, and of course, the best kind of CC is just killing them. Sheep infamous for playing the AP varieties of these builds, so doing a full Magic Pen Galio means that you can just do a one-shot combo and take down the key priority targets. Um, and again, Anivia fitting less into that style and maybe a little bit too far out of Sheep's area of expertise. I do think that Ivan is going to be another player to focus on because although we did say that the roaming was great in the last game and that they were able to play more selflessly, I think that the selfish playstyle isn't so bad if you're a master player. Being able to step up and carry the team is a big boon to have, and having a player who's as experienced and is as high of a rank as that means that you're just going to be able to lean on them that much more.
I think that the amount that Ivan roamed last game might also put sheep lovers on their toes, where they're watching more for those missing pings from the mid lane, or trying to establish more vision in the river in case of that mid lane move.
Mm-hmm. And I think a big thing to focus on, maybe not the easiest thing to do, a lot easier to say than to actually execute, is not giving up so many of those early objectives from the side of Team Sheep. We saw grubs being given away, dragons being taken easily without contest by the E-Kittens. And in this third game, I think that is not really going to fly. I think that if you want to have a good shot as Team Sheep at winning this game, you're going to need to be able to play a little bit more towards an early dragon or an early set of grubs so that you don't give so many advantages away to the E-Kittens that they're able to snowball off of. Because once you give away too many of those, you hit a point where you can't come back.
I think that the sheep lovers might try to atone for what the pick was last time and go for a much more aggressive comp this game. Maybe some early game power instead of the Anivia in the bot lane, where the bot lane and the mid lane are being Anivia and Malzahar really cause there to be a lack of power in those dragon fights in the early game.
And I do think that the reliance on the AP mid laners and the AP bots from Team Sheep kind of pigeonholes themselves into picking only those AD tops. We saw the Kled Hecarim picked last game, two AD champs in the top and jungle roles who maybe weren't the best suited for that sort of game that they were going for. I think that if we could see some other jungle picks that offer a little bit more utility, that could be of the AP variety. I think that that could be another avenue for Team Sheep to explore. But again, that does rely on not indexing so hard as AP for mid and bot.
Yeah, this last game, both junglers were playing a much more supportive role than in the first game, where it was a Master Yi versus Nocturne matchup. I think that I'm hoping that they go back to that kind of jungle matchup where both junglers are trying to fight and get themselves ahead.
Right. And it looks like we are headed into the draft now. And we do see the same bands again. Unfortunately for us viewers, Talon, Silas, Gwen banned for Team Sheep, Galio, Cho'Gath banned out already for Ekins, and it looks like it is going to be that Camille. So top lane carry matchup, a little bit less likely. But with this same draft setup, we're going to see if Team Sheep pivots towards something different or kind of goes with that same opener of Nautilus and Nivea that they've been sticking with throughout these first two games. If we do see any new picks, having one come out so early is going to be a really big boon for us viewers. And there's the Zac. Again, Zac, really flexible character, and not just because he's made of goo, able to be played in the top lane as a tank or as a jungler who has a lot of effective CC potential. And immediately we see the Kaiser response from Ekins. Again, really strong pick for them last game. Makes Anivia a lot less desirable of a pick, honestly, for Team Sheep. And also has percent health damage on the passive that deals with tanks that can be hard to take down, like the Zac. Let's see if they want to find a support pick for it immediately, or whether they move to another prio pick. And if they do go for the Soraka. So healing, going to be abundant for this bot lane. And again, having those enchanters that support the hyperscalers like Kaisa is going to be huge. Sheep. Is it going to be the Scion? There looks like they're testing something new as we see the Zac Scion. And keep in mind, the Scion, not going to be as tanky as you think it's going to be, I think. It's probably going to be that sheep AP or AD Scion bot.
What I'm really interested in is why would they pick this Scion after seeing the Kaisa? With Kaisa having built-in percent health damage and hearing that Scion might not be going with that tank build, I think it's really interesting that it's a bit of a self-counter in this bot lane matchup here.
Right. But with this Vel'Koz pick, like I said before, CC doesn't matter if you're dead. And if you can find the Vel'Koz burst onto the Soraka, you can find the Scion burst onto the Kaisa and Soraka, either of them, and just take one person down really quickly, maybe paired to some Zac CC, that could be super big. But we see the Poppy coming out. Again, could be flex top, jungle, maybe even support if you want to dabble in some Soraka mid, but I don't know if that's really the play that you want. This Poppy is going to be able to shut down some of the engage potential of the Zac with the W of Poppy being able to ground enemies and stop Zac mid jump.
I think that this Poppy pick is really interesting because it's not actually, other than countering Zac, Poppy has trouble getting onto that backline of Vel'Koz, and Scion does not have that kind of mobility that can be shut down by Poppy. They banned LeBlanc here too, and I think that that might just be some trauma from that first one.
Yeah, Mordekaiser also banned out from Team Ekins. Not something we've really seen that much, but getting rid of a top lane AP carry threat with that. Again, wanting to keep the damage profile not able to be mixed as much with an AP carry. Shen also taken out of the pool, a reliable tank that we saw Dragorite perform very well on in that first game. And we're going to see what this last ban from Team Sheep is, whether they want to just get rid of another AD or AP assassin in the mid lane, or whether they want to prioritize a top or jungle ban, depending on where they think the Poppy is going. Goes to the Dr. Mundo. Our prayers have been answered. Everybody rejoice. Dr. Mundo is not going to be in this third game. And maybe that opens up the door for some more carry top picks. Any Fiora enjoyers in the chat? I think that we could see something really interesting break out here, especially depending on whether people think Zac is gonna go. And it looks like it's Draven picked up for the Ekins. It could be Kaisa mid, could be Draven mid with the other taking the AD carry role, but this is definitely a turn of events that we were not expecting. And I am loving this. Kennen hovered for Team Sheep. That's going to be another really big team fight threat with ability to access the back line through things like Flash, Rocket Belt with the ultimate.
And with that Mundo band, I think that it will become a more volatile top lane here with it being a Kennen matchup. So I think we're gonna see if they're gonna pick a range matchup to match it or try to pick something like the Irelia, which we have C- has experience on. I'm really interested to see how they're gonna deal with this Kennen.
Yeah, and with this, we kind of know what the lane setups are going to be now. Zac's going to be jungle, Kennen's going to be top, Scion bot, Vel'Koz support, question mark. And it looks like we're going to see how Sheep decides to round out their draft, and it looks like it's the Ashe.
I think this means that we have Vel'Koz in the mid lane and an Ashe Scion bot lane, which is a really interesting draft.
Right, and we have a Tahm Kench last pick from Team Ekins. Looks like that's going to be tough to counter the Kennen, but at this point, anything really goes. I really appreciate Team Sheep and Team Ekins for spicing it up in this last draft. giving us what we wanted. Some insane matchups, some crazy picks, and of course, Sheep on Scion. Who can forget that?
I think another thing that's interesting is that Beck has probably pivoted off of that supportive mid laner role and has picked the Vel'Koz, which is more artillery. Still very safe, so that the Ivan cannot take her out as much. But it is really interesting to see that she has pivoted away from that.
Yeah, and honestly, the identities of these two comps are kind of all over the place, I want to say. There's some good pick potential from Team Sheep with the Ashe ultimate, with some Scion hidden Qs, with some Zac jumps. But at the same time, their team fight is also quite strong. Kennen in any comp is going to give you a huge team fight and flank threat that you always have to be aware of. And if Dragorite can just get one good team fight with the Slicing Maelstrom, he is going to be able to be causing the tides of the games to swing quickly towards Team Sheep. But on the other side, on Team Ekins, they're no slouches to dealing with pick or team fight comps. Again, the Soraka is such a consistent uh, healer and able to just provide counteractions to eat burst, to consistent damage, and all of that sort of stuff scaling incredibly well.
I think another issue sheep lovers have once again not picked any source of significant consistent damage. This was an issue last game against the Mundo, and Ekans have picked the Tom Kench. I'm really interested to see if perhaps the Ashe will go a more damage build compared to the traditional lethality support build, or will they just try to eat through that Tom Kench with Vel'Koz and Scion perhaps?
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a delay going into the next game, just waiting for some setup. So in the meantime, you guys can spend some time with us. And I do think that the ability of the Eakins to peel away for themselves is actually not to be underestimated. I think that, the Zac and the Kennen are really big threats that can jump into you and just destroy your entire HP bar. But Tom Kench has the ultimate to save one of the 80 carries. Poppy has a W and has an ultimate. And if Poppy can knock away the Scion mid fight, or even a Kennen mid ultimate, that could just completely turn the tides of the fight, make it a 4v5, and bring the E-Kittens a victory in that sort of situation.
Well, I think that the sheep have a lot of avenues for engagement, with a Zac coming out from perhaps out of vision, Scion coming out from with his ult from very far away, and then if the cannon can get a flank that's not expected, it's going to be really devastating, especially if Cannon's able to hit the Draven and the Kaisa with one slicing Maelstrom.
Yeah, and any of these Zac engages are going to be really threatening, but Soraka has the silence and the root, able to set those down in advance, seeing where the Zac is going to come from. Draven's able to interrupt the Zac mid-flight with the E stand aside that he has. So overall, I think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch. There's a lot of tools on both sides to fight the enemy teams, but there's also a lot of tools to protect themselves from the enemy team. So it's going to be a battle of who's going to be able to position in a way that lets them use their tools, and who's going to be able to find some more victories in some of these isolated 1v1 matchups.
This really is a battle between trying to beat down into the Kaisa and the Draven, and then versus a kind of protected presence team comp by the Ekin. So we're just gonna see how well the Tom, the Poppy, and the Soraka can defend these two high damage carries versus all the engage coming from Team Sheep Lovers.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into this game. I feel like we have been gifted a game that is sure to be full of action, sure to be full of interesting moments. I know that most of you guys probably haven't faced Scion bot that much in your games, unless you're in the Gotcho Gaming Discord and you have played against Sheep, in which case maybe you have and you have suffered through that. There is going to be a lot of hiding around, making cheeky plays, getting some Vel'Koz knockups into the Scion knockups, into Kennen stuns, and into Ashalts and all of that stuff. But I also really want to make sure we understand that this is not a Malzahar, this is not an Annie, this is a Vel'Koz who's going to be able to deal out an insane amount of damage if given the space and if given the peel to do so. Because as a Vel'Koz player myself, I know how it feels to just get run down by the enemy team without my team backing me. But I also know that this amount of damage can break through the Soraka, Poppy, and Tahm Kench wall. And just bursting down Kaisa or Draven at the start of the fight with a Vel'Koz ultimate can be a good way to win that.
The Tom Kench pick by C minus is also, I think, a really good pick because it's both defensive in that Tom Kench can use that ult to consume either Kai'Sa or Draven, but also has the versatility to potentially catch Kennen or Vel'Koz off guard with that W, and then with the damage coming from Kai'Sa and Draven, just burst down one of their main damage sources in Vel'Koz and Kennen.
Yeah, and I am just glad to see, some cannons picked up. Tom Kench, that's a tank, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it with the way it can eat you up and spit you out and deal massive damage. I really enjoy this ban of Dr. Mundo Team Sheep. I think whoever proposed that. And because I do feel like Dr. Mundo might have just been the pick if it was let through. The ability to just tank away all of this damage from Team Sheep, the ability to mitigate the crowd control of Zac, Vel'Koz, Kennen, Ashe, and Sion, I guess. That would have been super pivotal for having a sturdy front line for Team Ekins. But between the Poppy and the Tom Kench, it's definitely not bad. But I think that Mundo ban really effective here. Glad to see it from Team Sheep. But things to watch out for this game. Anytime Assault is used, that's a potential pick. Anytime Kaisa is able to ult onto somebody after getting the CC from Poppy or Draven or Tom Kench, that's going to be huge. And if it is this Kaisa mid, which might be more likely, seeing as Cristiano Ronaldo is a big Draven player, that's going to be interesting to see because Kaisa, while not the biggest roamer in anybody's mind, is able to roam down to the bot lane, ult in off of some crowd control, and finish off some kills. So we might be seeing another adjustment from Ivan where he's able to be there before this Vel'Koz is, who is limited mobility and can't just jump in like a Kaisa can.
I'm also interested to see if Ivan will opt for a more poke build with full AP or go for the more traditional static shiv into Rageblade build. Because if he is to go for that poke build, it might be tough for the Sheep Lovers to get close enough to engage on him.
Yeah, and looking at the lane setups here, we have Sheep playing Scion, and looks like Sheep's taking it mid, with Becca playing the Ashe AD carry and Vel'Koz support coming out from Malthusian. Looks like it's a bit of a switch up that we might have not been expecting, where Becca has been playing these supportive mids, but now is able to play the AD carry, and Sheep. We'll see if the Scion mid can match up against a Hail of Blades Kaisa mid, who has all that damage and ability to poke down.
This swap, I think, is pretty beneficial to the composition of Sheep Lovers because now you have that Ashe to do damage to Tom Kench. Only issue is she better not get hit by the Tom W or else she might get eaten up.
We do have a pause coming out here before the game truly starts. And I think that just gives a chance to admire some of the builds that we've got here in this game. We've got an Exhaust, Vel'Koz. Exhaust, again, particularly effective against people who like to dive in or deal huge amounts of damage like Draven or Kaisa. So that's going to be hopefully put to really good effect. We have the more defensive spells of Cleanse and Heal from the bot lane of the Ekins. Again, Cleanse, really, really necessary in this game versus the Kennen who has stuns, the Ashe who has a huge stun on the ultimate, and just the general CC that's going to be coming to the way of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Another thing is that it seems like Poppy has Hail of Blades, so might be seeing a more lethality based Poppy instead of a tank one.
Ooh, I do hope so. I think this Hail of Blaze Poppy is nice to see. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily going damage because having a front line for those 80 carries is super important, but that might give Poppy a little bit of unexpected fighting power early on that could make the difference in some level 3 ganks or even stuff that happens a little bit later on. Again, Poppy, that ultimate that knocks the enemies away is going to be really useful in these fights for splitting the enemy team apart. If Team Sheep doesn't have that sound in to deal those damage with the Qs or the Kennen to just blast every down with the lightning, it's going to be much harder for them to execute proper team fights in a coordinated way. And again, just looking at the jungle paths, Zac starting top side, looking to maybe make a bot gank happen with the Draven likely getting push on the Ashe. Poppy going from a bot side clear to top side. Again, maybe not looking for a gank on top at 3 minutes, but possibly just looking for a safe way to start out the game. I do think that this bot lane is going to be really interesting to watch. Draven and Ashe, two strong early game heroes who can skirmish quite well, but all it takes is one all in, and all of that HP can be gone in a second. Top lane, we're going to see Dragorite using that range advantage, using the annoying shurikens and lightning of Kennen to poke down Tahm Kench slowly bit by bit. And we're going to just see C- trying to do all that they can to resist and to tank that up.
Yeah, it seems like Poppy might be going for a little cheeky level 3 gank on bot lane, but will be spotted by that ward in the tri-bush. Now we just gotta see if the sheep lovers will respond to that vision. Or, oh, might be going for a little invade here.
Yeah, it looks like the Poppy a little bit adventurous going to this bot side red buff, but the Zac keen on that lands onto the Poppy fighting in the red buff area, and we're gonna see who comes out victorious. But you know what? Sometimes peace is the greatest solution of all, and both the sides just run out with the Zac being one camp up, which is important to note. Dragonite getting the push into the tower here, stunning up the Tahm Kench, and for this lane to feel even, we're going to need Kennen to be up a lot, to be honest. Tahm Kench is just going to tank up more and more as time goes on, and this Kennen needs to use that range advantage to press the lead.
That bot side invade by Poppy really caught me by surprise because I would have expected Poppy to look for more of a full clear into top gank, given that it is a ranged versus melee matchup. And if Tom manages to hit that W, it's a pretty much guaranteed kill on that cannon.
Yeah, and I'm just interested to see how this mid lane matchup also develops. I think Ivan pulling ahead with an early CS lead, Sheep keeping it pretty close as we see Poppy come into the top side, but not able to land the CC chain onto the slippery cannon.
Seems like Poppy might have eat a minion, and that has led to a little top lane 2v2 happening right now.
Yeah, it does look like the counterplay of the Poppy is going to allow us to just retreat away, run away from all the danger. And bot lane, we have the Draven just keeping stacking up the axes. Top lane, top jungle, Iron Wolfie caught out a bit by the Zac, but again, they're just going to be skirmishing a little bit over those uh, mini Krugs, and it'll be another pretty evenish neutral interaction.
Looks like Sheep is kind of stuck under the tower as of right now and is low on mana, so we might be seeing something like recall soon by both of these mid laners.
Top dive coming through from Zac though. Dragorite getting the kill onto Tahm Kench, a great first blood opportunity there. But the dive does mean that Poppy is able to collect the counter kill onto Zac, evening up that jungle matchup more and giving Poppy some space to breathe, even if that does come at the cost of the Tahm Kench. Dragorite still fighting back, but knows his limits as the TP from Tahm Kench comes down. In the bot lane, we do have a little bit more of an even matchup. The mid lane and the top lane are range versus melee matchups, so we are going to expect to see some CS disparities come in there, with range characters having a much easier time poking down the melees, getting them to base, and maybe building some CS advantages.
I noticed this is the first traditional ADC and support matchup we have had in the bot lane this entire series, and I'm really interested to think about why they might have swapped Becca to the bot lane.
Yeah, a little back behind the scenes information. Becca, usually an AD carry player, Sheep often playing the Scion, the Galio in the bot lane. But you know, Scion and Galio haven't played mid a lot in the past, and if that lets Becca be on a role that she's more comfortable with, if Sheep is still able to make a lot of impact happen on the AD Scion mid, I think that is really not a bad idea. And if you look at the inventories of the Kennen and the Scion, we see double culls coming out to match the single cull of Kaisa. So they are really looking to scale up, get some strong mid game and late game team fights going on, and utilize the power of the Kennen and the unexpected damage of the Scion.
We do see that Kai'Sa has a tier which might indicate going into a mana immune and the AP long range poke build here.
Mm-hmm. We do see an attempted steal from the Zac jumping over the wall, but not able to do so successfully, just flashing out, saying, let bygones be bygones, and chilling out with that. But again, early objectives going over to E-Kittens. It is a really, really good thing for them to get. A Cloud Dragon, always nice to have in the back pocket. And we're just going to see if Sheep can stem the bleeding. This team has lost a lot of early objectives in the past two games. But if they can turn that around and get some more for themselves, that could be a big difference maker going into the scaling competition we're going to have.
We do see that Poppy has purchased a tunneler, which means that it will not be an assassin or lethality type Poppy, but I am still interested in why Halo Blades over something like Aftershock or maybe Conquer even.
Yeah, we'll have to see if the damage ends up making the difference or anything like that. Uh, as we check in with the lanes, it looks like Kaisa actually taking down solo. The power of the Scion mid coming through with Justice Array to Dirk. I guess that's all you need to take down a Kaisa. Uh, Kaisa just able to take the walk back of shame in the mid lane, but that's a really good sign if you're a Sheep fan. Bot lane fight, Cristiano Ronaldo flashing forwards, able to take down Malthusian. Becca trying to fight back, but not able to save her support. Exhaust going unused by the Vel'Koz. That might be a crucial mistake there. With Cristiano Ronaldo able to flash forward, still having the cleanse to take off any of the exhaust or stuns that might come their way. But with Ash not being even level 6 yet, that is going to be really rough. Level 6 hit by Becca, ult used, cleansed used. You can check the summoner spells, and it looks like that is going to be all she wrote for the bot lane. Draven pulling ahead a lot. Remember, Draven gets accelerated extra by having kills from his passive. He gets extra gold from each kill. And so that means that bot lane is going to be looking even more lopsided towards the favor of Draven.
It's looking like who we thought was going to be the star player, Ivan, might be taking a back seat in this game compared to Cristiano Ronaldo on the Draven pick, where he has purchased a BF sword and a Vamp Scepter and is significantly ahead of this Ashe at this point in the game. So we might be seeing a Ronaldo carry this time.
Yeah, Ronaldo carrying, and it's not just on the soccer pitch. We do have Zach completing those grubs, jumping over to the top side and putting in a little bit of pressure on. Early grubs for Team Sheep, you'll love to see it if you're a Sheep fan, because it does mean that they're having some parity with the early game objectives. Sheep impressively taking off the CS lead versus the Kaisa. You know, Kaisa, AD carry, having his the Q to clear up minions, having a lot of range and auto attack ability. It's good to see this pocket pick Scion doing what it's supposed to and getting those reps in. Bot lane, though, is still the problem point for Team Sheep. AD carry matchup, one kill on Draven can totally swing it in his favor. Really dangerous here to have in this game. And with what's looking to be a Bloodthirster rush, it's going to be even harder to take him down because he's going to have that extra shield and the extra survivability that could turn the tide of a fight. And especially in the 2v2, it's looking almost unlosable for the Draven.
With a bot lane like Ashe and Valkaz, you really don't want to see all this healing coming from the Draven and Soraka. So the plan of poking him out of lane might not be looking too hot, especially as this Draven comes close to completing that Bloodthirster.
Yeah, but in the top lane, we do see Dragonite still keeping that push in, still keeping that CS advantage, and notably, of course, Sheep keeping the CS advantage in the mid. The jungle is a lot more even with both of them just sort of roaming around and trying to enable their teams instead of focusing on power farming. But as both of them come to the bot lane, we'll see if any more action breaks out. As a little skirmish comes in, ultimate from Ashe onto the bot lane, but again, disengage is strong from both teams. Cristiano Ronaldo drops some axes to disengage, but with the Scion ulting down, it looks like Iron Wolfie is going to be left for the Wolves as Bigger Gig able to take down the Poppy and gain the advantage in that jungle matchup. Sheep ulting down, taking the wave in mid, just not losing anything for these plays. And Sheep looking like it's going to be a roaming masterclass, zoning away the enemy bot lane and making it so that they have no chance of winning the 4v3.
I think that I've been opting for this late game folk Kai'Sa build is really interesting because it means that they have to hold out for a while. Even it kind of is contrary to what the Draven wants to do, which is get ahead fast and then end the game fast. So I think we're gonna see if Ivan's gonna be able to get this pick even online before either team gets the advantage big enough to win.
Yeah, that's a great point because I feel like mid game is where this cheap team is going to shine a lot. The Scion damage, of course, is going to be extremely high, getting some fast acceleration and some items, and the Zac and Cannon are going to be able to provide a lot of teamfight presence with crowd control and damage. But this dragon is going to be started up by the Ekins. Looks like they're going to be forced off of it, though. Becca for looking at them and staring them down, getting them away. A jump in from Bigger Gig forward pushes them even further back, and it looks like the dragon is going to be taken away by Team Sheep. Again, focusing in on having those early objectives, getting some prio with the Scion, and just having the ability to push them back with this extremely strong Zac at this point. Top lane also winning in isolation, Dragorite doing what he needs to do to make this advantage worthwhile. Tom Kench, you know, sitting out a CS lead isn't the end of the world because you're still going to be a tank with a lot of utility. But again, having these leads across the board is going to make it a lot easier. And Dragorite pushing that lead to the limit, finding a solo kill onto the Tom Kench, who didn't even have the chance to use Flash, and taking some plates with that.
I think this is going to really be a battle between how safe can the Ekians keep Cristiano Ronaldo on this Draven, and how well can the Sheep Lovers attack this Draven pick with all the engage that they have. With Kennen being ahead by this much at this point, it might be a big threat towards this Draven pick, as if Kennen can flash on and stun Draven, it might be over.
Right, and as we see the grubs get picked up by Team Ekins, looks like they're not going to be contested and get the 3 in succession. You do have to wonder if this Kaisa is also a really vulnerable pick, because although she has the killer instinct, she needs to be not stunned to cast it. And she's playing with TP instead of cleanse. So that means that one stun from the Kennen, one ult from the Ashe means that she's going to be locked down long enough for the Zac to follow up, a Scion Q to get charged and slam down on her, or just a Vel'Koz combo to incinerate her, even from the support role. There's so many threats out here that it's looking a little bit difficult for the AD carries of Ekins to survive through, especially because those threats are accelerated.
And Sion has picked up the Axiom arc, so I'm thinking we might see some ults down to bot or up to top with that accelerated ultimate cooldown on the Sion arc.
Yeah, Axiom Arc giving Scion the refresh cooldown on each champion takedown. So, it's going to be easier to chain ganks into ganks, or, in a team fight, maybe even if prolonged, get 2 ultimates off. Rift Herald started up by the Sheep team, and an ultimate from the Ashe comes sailing forward, but looks like this is just going to be a Herald. Ashe actually hits onto Poppy. Great prediction from Becca. And it looks like it's just going to end up being the Herald for the blue team, and Team Sheep going to be walking away from that one quite happy. Solid snipe from Becca, looking down at the bottom lane and just sending it all the way all on over to the Herald pit. Again, early objectives, the name of the game. We've seen what Team Sheep can do even when they're behind in game 1, but when they're ahead, it's a whole different story. As we do have blue team, Team Sheep taking down the first turret. Sheep being able to do that on his Scion with the attack damage given from Axiom Arc, and now the Yomus, after completed cull, able to smack down the tower and bring it to completion.
What makes this more interesting is that we haven't actually seen Team Sheep play from ahead as of yet in this final series, so it might be a different type of game where Sheep has to make the plays and it's Ekins that are reacting instead of before where Ekins were ahead and forcing the Sheep team to react.
Yeah, and from the back foot, it looks like Team Ekins isn't really able to coordinate that much. They do still have to scale. They have to get more items on the Kaisa. They have to get Tom Kench able to be a solid frontline and not just get burst down, but pick-offs like onto Picky Nicky, maybe living up to the name a little bit too much, is going to place Cristiano Ronaldo in a lot of threat. And as he gets collapsed on from multiple angles, Cristiano Ronaldo able to be fast with his feet, but you can't be fast enough from here. Bottom lane, we do see a collapse coming though, and it is looking a little bit sketchy for Team Sheep, but they're still going in. Becca making some moves, fighting it out, and bottom lane is going to become bottom grave. Looks like Iron Wolfie and Ivan are just gonna be taken down, looking to counterpunch, but getting taken down themselves. Dravenel comes through, and that is a snipe from Cristiano Ronaldo. Field goal all the way down from the court.
I really do think that this is that the AP Kaisa mid pick by Ivan might have been a
Ooh.
mistake.
Big damage coming out from Sheep here, just ulting straight onto them and finding another pick onto Picky Nicky. Double deaths twice in succession from the Soraka, and Sheep just able to get out on a sliver of HP. It feels unfair. This AD Scion just dishing out way too much damage to be humanly possible. And this Kaisa just sitting on a Manamune and a Hextech Alternator compared to the Yomu's Ghostblade Axiom Arc is rough, but at the same time, Sheep does have to recall, has a TP in though, and the big question is whether the Zac is able to be there for the fight.
I think the problem with Ivan picking this late game Pokaisa is that he can't
Dragon.
facilitate these early game dragon fights as we see here.
Wow, Poppy gets the Ocean Drake, but the ensuing fight might not be as good. Dragonite gets shut down, but Becca able to flash away. Sheep, though, on the other hand, going in at the same time, and it's Vel'Koz who's able to laser down the Kaisa. That's what we were talking about. Any CC that lands into the Kaisa, and it's zap time. Like a fly, just squashed. Picky Nicky doing what she can to be able to heal up this Tom Kench, but it's never going to be enough through all the damage that's still remaining on Team Sheep. And it turns out to be a 1-for-4 of a Dragonite for what is essentially almost all of Team Ekins. That is going to be huge. Dravenol sent through mid just to clear out the wave a little bit, but that is still going to be a taken tier 2.
And it's fights like those that really show the issue with this Kaisa mid pick, where you have so little agency in these early skirmishes for these neutral objectives like Grubs and Dragon, where Ivan, being the highest ranked player, I think really needs that early game agency on something that doesn't need 3-4 items to really come online like Kaisa.
Ooh, and another huge amount of damage just launched out from Sheep onto Cristiano Ronaldo. Another kill, another Axiom ult cooldown reduction, and that's all she wrote for Cristiano Ronaldo. No more trades today. It's just down. Dragonite still pushing up onto the top lane, and you really have to wonder, is this team comp from Ekins ever going to get the chance to take a fight on fair footing? The Kaisa still hasn't stacked the Manamune fully, and like you were mentioning, I don't think that this sort of playstyle was the right idea going into it. Kaisa, a really strong pick, but if you're this behind early and you lose that many early objectives, it's not going to be the same as in the first two games when you're just getting when you're getting grubs and dragons for free. It's going to be just a difficult path for you going forward if you're not able to seize some momentum early on and capitalize off of that.
I think it's just gonna be seeing if the Sheep Lovers will be able to end this game quickly with this humongous lead that they actually have, or will the Ekins be able to hunker down and scale?
Ooh, a huge cannonade coming up from Jaggerite, comboed with the Vel'Koz ulti. Zac is going to be taken down. Becca taking some huge damage from turret shots, and ultimately 1-for-1. Not that bad. If you are Ekins Anonymous, you are looking to take as many 1-for-1s as you can get, because on the back foot, that just gives you some more options to work with. This bottom lane, though, Sheep, an absolute menace on the Rift, treating it like a farm. He's just going in and collecting the crops. One tower here, one tower there, one kill here, one kill there. It's just money, 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 and you can see that shutdown is growing on this island.
I think as Baron has just spawned, it would be smart for the Sheep Lovers to try to force a fight there while they are this ahead. Getting that Baron will really allow them to push in further into the base and gain a further lead than they already have.
Yeah, looking at the gold differential, almost coming up to 8,000 gold. And that's with the Draven on the enemy team. Draven, of course, has the gold steroid, sitting at 2 items equal with the Ash, but that's not exactly where the gold disparity is. Looking at mid, 3 full items. That's an entire Lord Dominic's for the Scion. This Scion is going to be dealing true damage plus with the amount of armor penetration, but looking at the Kaisa, maybe this is where it comes alive. 2 items, Kaisa able to Killer Instinct forward, drop the W mid Killer Instinct with that combo, just deleting Malthusian from the map even before the exhaust can be used. So that's the power of the Kaisa coming to play.
I think with Riven finally completing Infinity Edge, it's going to be interesting to see if Tom Kench will be able to shield him from the initial burst damage of the Scion and the Cannon with that Devour. Because once they get through that burst damage, Draven can kind of go to town on these more squishy champs.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'd love to see maybe something like a Knight's Vow even picked up for the Tom Kench, just knowing that Tom is not going to be the person that's going to die first in a lot of these engages, although as I speak, getting chunked down by sheep. It's going to be about the Kaisa and the Draven, doing anything you can to mitigate the damage that goes onto them from these huge bursts, like from the cannon and from the Scion. That's going to be how you're going to win these team fights. But as we see sheep getting collapsed on, this top lane is not looking safe. Poppy hopping onto him, the TP even coming through. This is a Scion that is getting out. Oh my god. The ult comes through from Sheep and a master of the craft, utilizing the flash, utilizing the ultimate, setting up so that this dragon is, looking pretty tasty for Team Sheep.
I really think that that was a pretty excellent play. Sheep was able to hold that ultimate until more members of the team came up, and that has led to this play on Dragon.
Yeah, but you got to look at the mini map. Sheep TPing back to the mid lane area into the topside river, sort of warding this enemy team off of Baron. And you saw that Team Ekins was posturing towards that Baron side, knowing that, with Scion top, the rest of the enemy is missing. Where else could they be but Dragon? But unable to commit onto that Baron play that could swing the game. And Sheep just really playing that sequence extremely well. On this comfort pick of the Scion, finally off of that Anivia, using the ultimate and the flash to get out, using teleport to get back in, and kind of just breaking the ankles of Ekins all around.
I think seeing that Zach has gone this Leandries, it might become an issue if Draven gets tankier, where the sheep lovers will burn all their CC and Tom will just devour Draven. And then once all the cooldowns are down, Draven can chunk through all of them with that Bloodthirster and Infinity Edge combo.
Mm-hmm. But you do have to remember, the Ashe is still not without threat this game. That's a 3-1-6 Ashe, although down a lot of CS, still fairly keeping even on the items with this pretty fed Draven. You do want to pay attention to this Kaisa going forward, though. Sitting at 2 items right now, that third item is really going to bring out a lot of the power from the Kaisa. More AP damage, more poke, and at the same time, more burst gives Team Ekins a lot more options to work with the ways they can make plays and play around Dragon and Baron setups.
What I think is interesting is this double Grievous Wound coming from the bot lane. I think that against this team comp with all your bursts, the Grievous Wound might not be as effective as they might think.
We see the Scion just drifting in all the way from the top side of your screen over there, just cashing out onto Soraka and getting another pick onto Picky Nicky. Again, a lot of that weakness being exposed in the support role with constant punishes going down onto the Soraka, just trying to get some vision out.
And that's what I'm talking about, the burst damage. Like, there's no one to heal when the Soraka gets one shot by the Scion, right? With the Grievous Wounds, I see the mindset, but I don't think it might not be necessary in this case.
Mm-hmm. And we will see that this topside jungle is being invaded by Team Sheep, just not really letting Ekins have any agency within their own jungle, cutting off paths towards the Baron, setting up vision, and engaging a little bit into Team Ekins, going forward a bit, but just running away as well. This pressure that's being exerted from Team Sheep is real. You see Sheep just sitting in a bush there, waiting for his next target, and whoever it may be, I sure as heck hope it's not going to be that Soraka once again, because I think she suffered enough. We do see Kaisa recalling here, though. We'll see how good the buy is. Tom's Kench sitting on 2 items, Draven sitting on 2 items. Once that next couple of breakpoints are hit with the 3-item Draven and the 3-item Kaisa, we might see a turnaround. But again, it is the Soraka just trying to get the vision out, and the Poppy goes down with her. This is looking like it's going to be a really easy Baron's take for Team Sheep. 3 versus 5, those are the odds that you really want when you're playing for the Baron objectives. And the Draven ult comes through, but in the end, it is going to be the Smite that secures the Baron Asher. And with a lot of these plays, it's just kind of Eakin's getting caught out.
What I think is really interesting. Oh, big engage by Dragonite here with the cannon, and Kaisa is once again caught out. Interesting that Kaisa was in that position in the first place. I think that might be the ego coming out once again that I was talking about.
Yeah, I don't know why that's kind of what you're going for. I think that Kaisa is really the person who has to stick in the back line and drop the damage, play safe, and be the consistent DPS that will win you that fight. But going in there, trading 1-for-1 onto the cannon, not the worst in the world. But again, having a death on the Kaisa while the enemy team has Baron is going to open up a lot more avenues in the map for them. You really don't want to see it happen.
It's looking really tough here with Iron Wolfie trying to contest his own camps from the Scion. So I think Sheep might have taken over the game a little bit this game.
Yeah, Sheep sitting on a cool 8, 0-4, 700 gold bounty. Whoever takes down the Sheep is going to be eating good tonight. We see 4 items come out on the Scion versus just the 2 of the Kaisa right now. Even though their CS is pretty equal, we do see the Scion running amok. As Ghost played out, that's all she wrote. Using the Flash as well. Important to consider for any upcoming fights that might happen. Scion Flash, maybe not the greatest thing in the world compared to something like the Cannons, but it is a good win for Eakins to take, and they need to keep getting small advantages like that if they want to cascade into something bigger. But as we speak, dragon spawning. This ocean dragon just going to provide more and more sustain, more, and as we reach the ocean soul, is just going to make it more insurmountable for this Kaisa's poke or the Draven singular axis to take the enemy team down. But Sheep caught out in the top side, shut down by the Draven, and that might be exactly who you want it to go on. But the the revived zombie Scion taking down the Kaisa, punch, 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 and that's it.
That was the first time we saw Sheep really utilize that silent passive this game. I think it was something we all wanted to see a little bit of, and there it was.
Yeah, Scion going without deaths, that can't stand. You got to utilize that passive. And Sheep, for the first death on Scion in this series, letting us know that there is a right way to use it. And with that, we are going to be able to see this Baron push get slowed down a little bit, though, because Sheep is a lot of that influence and that presence. With him out, the push on the other lanes is going to be slowed down a bit. And we're just going to see some chill, casual resets come out here. But still big win for Eakins taking that down.
But with that shutdown on the sun, we do see that Draven gets that LDR and a Noon Quiver, so Ronaldo's damage will not be negligible at this point in the games. It's just going to be seeing if Sheep lovers can shut him down at the beginning of the fights instead of having him be devoured and then wreak havoc on the full down heavy champions that they have.
Yeah, and I just want everybody to pay attention to this Scion. That is a Scion with 5 items and boots completed. This is a Scion who's not going to be getting that much stronger. So, if the game keeps going and if Scion keeps getting picked off, if the Kai'Sa is allowed to scale and collect the 4th item even, already sitting at 3, then it's going to get really rough. And even though the gold deficit is large for the Kittens to surmount, it's still going to be possible.
It really does seem like the Sheep lovers are having trouble closing out this game where they've gotten this huge lead, but they don't know how to really push in past this comp that has pretty good wave clear with all the damage from the Kaisa and the Draven. I think that what they're looking for now is to get soul and fight for Elder.
Oof, and you do see Ivan jumping in, Becca forced to flash out, get at the barrier, exhaust used by Malthusian, and that's where the AP Kaisa is getting a lot stronger. But we see Sheep charging in, getting a double kill. That damage just insane from this fully built Scion, and this might be the break that Team Sheep needed. This is going to be a huge team fight win. This is going to be Sheep getting a 3rd kill in this fight. Pinky Nikki left alone, Soraka by herself, can't do all too much, and it's going to be an ace.
And with where the wave is right now, it's looking like perhaps the end of the game with the underdogs, Sheep lovers, coming out on top actually against this master level mid laner.
Yeah, the Zac coming through, Sheep participating in a huge amount of this turret destruction and these kills and these team fights, showing us why the Scion is feared. And of course, running it down the fountain as a final act.
I think I can speak for everyone when I say we didn't expect the Sound mid to be the pick that would finally take down Ivan in this final game of this series.
And congratulations to Sheep Lovers for winning our League of Legends tournament. They win the finals, and of course, shout out to seasonic The sheep lovers will be gifted with 5 Vertex GX 850s, some great power sources for your PCs. And second place, we do have Eakins Anonymous, who will be getting the MagFlow 1225 PWM3 fan kits. And I just want to say that these 3 games gave us the whole shebang. The first game, we saw the carry mastery. Second game, we saw a great unexpected mid lane Viego pick from Ivan, showing us why he's the highest ranked player in these games. But the third game, it got us all the way with the Scion mid. And Eakins Anonymous, they gave us the Hawk, but not the Tua, not able to close out that second win. And it is the sheep lovers who are able to make that final stand, play as a team, and use that the hidden strength of the Scion to make sheep, make us believe in what we all wanted to. But yeah, thanks again to seasonic, and we'll go to one last message from them. But thank you guys all for coming out and watching these exciting games for our League of Legends tournaments. Congratulations to the sheep lovers, and hope to see you all again soon.
Bye.